102.5.
And a good morning to you wherever you are listening to us from. You're welcome to the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, of course. And it's another Saturday morning. And from now to 12 o'clock, we'll be discussing some of the topical issues that made the headlines in the various news outlets over the week. And I would like to welcome you to the program for today. My name is Senna Nombo. Show is produced by Patrick Asford-Bwedu. Now, you can watch the program live on Facebook through PAP MCGH. PAP MCGH. Now, if you're watching it live through Facebook, you can also share your comments, share your opinions and thoughts using that particular handle. I'll read them out as we go along in the program. And also you can use the 0233995905, 0233995905. You can send a WhatsApp through that number. You send a WhatsApp message through that number. You can send a text message or anything else. You can only send a WhatsApp message, and if you do that, I'll read that one out too. If you use Twitter, you can look for my handle, Senna Nombo, Senna Nombo, and the number is NOMBO, and you can tweet at me your comments, and I'll read that one out too. We are also live across the country on a number of affiliates. In Likpe, we are on Sekpele 104.3. In Kmando, we are on Radio Kmando 102.5. In Vegolokwati, we are on Lukusi Radio 96.1. In Sekendi, we are on Radio Silver. In Kachi, we are on Shine FM 96.9. In Saboba, we are on Radio Kitan 95.7. We are also live on GFM Radio in London. And the show is produced by Franco Trading Enterprise, Kulun Ghana Limited, and TT Brothers. We'll share a message from them very shortly. But before I do, let me take you through the headlines on the newspapers we have this morning. And the first one is the Spectator newspaper, and it says, "Mad rush for grave space." And also, show of class at Gliss Africa Fashion Week. And then check your land title registration, and landlords exploiting tenants with agents' fees. And finally, all is set for Ashaiman to the World concert, Stone Boy. There's a picture of him on the front page of the Spectator newspaper. You can get a copy and read that out. And also, the Ghanaian Times has NUST crisis deepens, lecturers, administrators down tools, demand restoration of University Council, government hands over 200 new cars to police. And also, NAPCO recruits to start work by November 1. And then 2 buildings at Ejrigano belong to Woyome. And that is from court. And the Daily Guide, Nana presents 200 cars to police. Dissolution of council. NUST lecturers declares NUST lecture strike. And it comes a picture of Dr. Matthew Poko Prempeh, who is the education minister. DHS students stabbed to death. St. Louis Senior High School Butler Fondle students, MPs grill ministers, and it has the pictures of Ivan Sopoku Bobi, Cynthia Morrison, and Kojo Ponkruma, who are being vetted for their new positions. And finally, the Daily Graphic has boy 14 stabbed to death by classmates. Ghana Togo strengthen bonds. Ministry conferring with NMC on standards. Oponkruma says at vetting. And President Akufo-Addo present 200 cars to police service. And so those are on the front page of the newspapers we have available to us this morning. If you just join us or listen to the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, is live on affiliates across the country, live on GFM Radio in London, live on Radio Gold 905.com, and also we are also live on Facebook on PAP MCGH. My name is Senna Nombo, and this morning we'll be talking. We'll be doing an analysis of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology impasse. The students calling for the removal of the Vice Chancellor, Dean of Students, and Head of Security, and government's dissolution of a governing council and putting in place an interim governing council with a 3-month mandate to investigate the riot and related matters. Now, don't forget that governing council is also supposed to ensure that the school reopens, and now they have 12 days to do that. And and also the issue of the lecturers deciding to go on strike. So that will be the first issue we'll be discussing, and then we'll take the National Democratic Congress delegates. They are electing their national youth and women organizers today, so we'll be taking the toss of our panelists for today on that one too. And also we'll discuss the hikes in fuel prices, telecommunication services by November 1, and GAWU's projection of food prices going up soon, and related issues. So those are the issues on the table for today. And my guest for today, Professor Ninoy Dowona, is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana, Alhaji A.B.A. Fuseni, Member of Parliament for Sanyarugo constituency, Alhaji Haruna Rashid Ibrahim, the Executive Director of Development Challenge, and Emmanuel Wilson is Director of Communications of the People's National Convention. Once again, I welcome you to Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. And a big thank you to Franco Trading Enterprise. They're one of our sponsors. And a big thank to them for the support they are providing for the show, to the Chief Executive and staff of Franco Trading Enterprise. A big thank you to you. Before I take the toss of Emmanuel Wilson on our very first topic, the management of Franco Trading wishes to inform the general public that the ongoing promotion on some WhatsApp platforms in relation to phone top-up for an iPhone is a scam. Thus, we advise that the general public should desist from giving monies to any unauthorized persons in either by mobile money or cash in acts of getting a brand new iPhone. Please report such incidents to the nearest police station or call 0302 225 651 or 0246 422 338 or 0247 033 429 for further information. That is issued by the management of Franco Trading Enterprise. Don't also forget that they are doing a discount, and they are selling their products at a discount. In fact, if you go and buy at any of the Franco Trading Enterprise shops, you get a discount of 30% on whatever you buy. They deal in phone accessories, tablets, flat screen TVs, laptop printers, among others. And this happens if you use the Franco Trading app to purchase anything from their shop. So you can download the Franco Trading app from your Google Play Store. You place your order and the phone will be delivered right at your doorstep, and you get a 30% discount. Once again, welcome to the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji And Alhaji. So we'll go to our very first guest on the show today, Emmanuel Wilson, is Director of Communications of the PNC, and we are talking about the events at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. If you're watching that on Facebook, big thank you for joining the show. Good evening, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning.
Wow. Very, very sorry. Very, very sorry. My day job involves me doing the news bulletin at 5 p.m. So sometimes it escapes me. So good morning.
Oh my goodness. Good morning, Senna. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I hope you are too. Happy birthday to you, by the way. And in case you don't know, Mr. Wilson is celebrating his birthday today. Happy birthday. We forgot his cake. So anybody who can bail us out will be very happy.
Well, thank you very much for the wish. And if you say you forgot the cake, I am really imagining what that means. But I would rather want to believe that it was deliberate. Deliberate that you decided not to celebrate me today with a cake. But I tend to understand, because if you find yourself in such an economy, you do not even have what it takes to celebrate the basics of life. But the most important thing is that we have life. And aside having life, it is just a joy that today being my birthday, I am, celebrating it this morning with wonderful people like you, particularly our viewers and our listeners. Let me say a good morning to those watching us and those listening to us, and say the first few minutes want to thank God for adding a new year to my life. And I'm very confident that since a new year has been added, it will be a sign of a new maturity, which is just expected. Please let me use this opportunity to also thank individuals who have been in my life for the past years and have molded me to this stage. most importantly, media friends like Patrick, yourself, and the rest, and then my immediate family. You have no idea how my mom in particular checks me up anytime she sees or monitors me on radio and on TV. She's my number one marker. She will be sending text messages and be telling me that, no, I didn't say it well this way. I didn't do it this way. I should have done it this way and all that. So I want to thank her so much also for being my backbone, and my siblings. I want to thank them so much. Now, back to the issue. And of course, I'm just hoping that before the program ends, the cake will be produced. That I am still expecting. Now that my senior brother, Ibi Fuseni, is here, I'm sure the cake will come. We are in to discuss as a first topic the issue of the KNUST impasse, if you want to put it that way. It is just unfortunate that this week, today is the end of the week, so the week began with us recording such an unfortunate incident in one of our topmost universities or traditional universities, KNUST, and indeed the biggest university in Ghana as we speak now, KNUST. And so you should just be able to imagine the population, imagine the fact that whatever happens there has a direct or indirect effect on significant number of persons. Not just to talk about the students, not just to talk about the management, but stakeholders outside the school premise, parents, friends, relatives, guardians, and all have you. Indeed, the entire nation, because whatever takes place there, it affects the foundation of this nation. But I want to look at it from three perspectives. The first one is just to introduce us into exactly what the issues are, and then to narrow it to what transpired specifically on Monday, which had to do with the violent act that was recorded as a result of procession or demonstration that took place by the students. And then look critically also at the interim committee that has been set by the president. Nobody in this country, irrespective of your political affiliation, should see education as a political or partisan political policy or issue, because education is a foundation of our economy, not just present but future, which is the most important one. And so anything that has to do with education, I always want us to look at it taking off the lenses of partisanship and to look at it as a critical issue that borders on the core of our society, the core of the development of this nation. And that is why I have said over and over and over that if this nation will move from where it is to where it's supposed to be, then politicians should find a way of minimizing, if not being able to eradicate totally, minimizing the partisan influence we have on our educational sector and on our educational system. What is the background? How did this whole thing happen? How did we get to this stage? The management of tech are faced with a serious issue, which over the past years we've all closed our eyes on. Unfortunately, the management itself seems to have been in a position of not being able to handle those issues as it ought to be. One had to do with infrastructure in the school. It is just ironical that, as I mentioned earlier on, it is the biggest university, not just in terms of intake, but even in terms of land size. It is the biggest. And so with such an undeveloped, vast land on the campus, it is just ironical that management will sit down and allow deficiency to arise with regards to their facilities, particularly with how the housing of students are concerned. It is very strange, Senna, to mention that about 60% of the student population on KNUST live outside campus. 60% plus live outside campus, which means that, and it is not their doing, it is not the students' wish to live outside campus. It is just because of the lack of infrastructure we have on campus there. And that is what has forced them to move outside. We are just not picturing the fact that 60 plus are outside, but we are also looking at the difficulties these students will go through. One, in terms of hostel facilities, the cost in going to get a hostel outside campus to stay in. Two, the stress moving in and out of campus almost every day to attend lectures. Three, the security aspect of it. That you move out of campus, probably your lectures may end in the evening and you decide to move to your outside campus or outside hostel. The security involved. There has been instances where students have been attacked. Those who are living outside campus have been attacked. There has been instances where it has even been purported that some of them have been raped and all that. So we are talking about the security part of it also. The other issue that confronts the university has to do with the way and manner in which management decides to relate with the students themselves. Will you believe that the campus has got its own security, which is accepted everywhere? Aside the security, the campus has got its own cells, where if the internal security effects arrest on any of the students, they go to lock the students up in those cells on campus. All right? In the school. They have their own cell in the school. We are not talking about what is mandated by the Constitution, where the police, as we all know, have got cells and they can lock up persons and all that. The private security on campus have got their own cells, and they are able to effect arrest and lock persons up. You know, I don't know the laws that governs it, and I don't know how it is done, but that is what happens. Now, management comes out with other policies, and clearly, listening to some of the students or the student leadership, it is clear that they were not involved so much when it came to the development of those policies. One of the policies says that if you're a student on campus, you are not supposed to be seen. That is, those who are fortunate to have, stay on campus, they are residents, or even if you are not you are not staying on campus. After 10 p.m., you are not supposed to be seen in the opposite sex hall. And so if I'm a male and I have a study partner who is a female, and we decide to do studies together, and then it goes into the night. If I'm staying, or if the partner is in my hostel or in my hall of residence, after 10 o'clock, it becomes illegal for the partner to be in the hostel or in the how do we call it, hall of residence with me. Likewise, if I am in that person's hall of residence, after 10 o'clock, it becomes illegal. And I'm sure among some of the things that will be done because you are seen perpetuating illegality is to have the internal security arresting you and locking you up. You understand? These are the problems that are happening in the university. But it becomes difficult for me to apprehend all this, particularly knowing that this is happening in a university. You see, if you look at the chain, our academic chain, individuals who decide to take the academic route, universities are supposed to be the last on the academic ladder. Now, if it is the last, what it means is that is the place where you are supposed to be formed finally to face the realities in the world. That is the place where every part of you is supposed to be developed. So not just academics. And that's why when you go to campus, we have so many groupings. We have parliament on campus. We have debaters. We have so many associations. The rationale is to form us finally. The rationale is to create the platform for us to be able to exhibit in practice what we have learned so far. So to prepare us to get into the working field or the world, the reality, the world of reality, you know. And so if you decide as management to develop policies that are directly affecting students, and you decide that you are going to treat these students as though they are kids, and that you are going to impose these policies on them, and not just policies that are pleasant. For me, I don't even understand the rationale for which you will want to tell me that after 10 o'clock, as adult as I am, and I have heard commentators, when they are talking about the universities, they are quick to refer to them as children. Our children, our children. That is not true, entirely true. There are some students who are on campus who are older than some of those commentators I'm listening to and I've heard. They are absolute adults, individuals who have got their kids, who have got their family outside, and they've decided to come to have a university education. And so they are not kids. And so I'm still imagining that if we have adults on campus, what would be the rationale for you to tell me that adults are not supposed to be seen with the opposite sex after 10 o'clock? It beats my imagination. And for me, if the school management could come out to give us rationale behind it, then we'll be able to discuss it. But so far, listening to the students, they coming out to talk about these issues, these policies, the management have not been able to come out to give us any rationale, any reason for formulating these policies. But you see, whatever be the rationale, one thing is very clear, and that is the fact that consultation was not done enough. Two, even if consultation was done, it is very clear that the school management are seeing the students as children. And indeed, even if they are children, even if they are SHS students, or they are SS or SHS, they call it now. I get so confused because I am not a product of those ones. You know, so if it is SHS students, ideally, and invoking the principles of good management, you are supposed to consult. Let them feel that they are part of it. Let them understand the rationale for it. And when they are able to embrace it, implementation becomes very smoothly. But hey, having talked about all this, the truth of the matter is this: why on earth will anyone decide to even concentrate on these petty policies when bigger issues are there confronting the university? For me, the number one issue has to do with accommodation. And that is what I thought the management will be concentrating so much on. Instead of developing this, unfounded, very irrational policies, where you tell me that internal security men are fully in charge to the extent that they can even have their own cells, and so they can lock you up, if they see that the student is doing something in their view which is illegal, they can lock you up and all that. It doesn't make sense. That is the background to all this. And for us, if we are making any argument, I expect that we look at it from this perspective. Now we come to, with this background, some students, somewhere last 2 weeks or last week, they were just about 70 or so, decided to hold a vigil night. And when they did hold the vigil nights, the internal security arrested some of them. The internal security brutalized some of them to the extent that one was hospitalized. Now, fortunately, just some 2 or 3 days ago, I heard that the one who was hospitalized has been treated. He has received full recovery and has been discharged. Those individuals that were arrested and were locked up in the so-called campus cells have also been released. I'm not sure whether they've been released on bail or what, but they've been released. You understand? And this is what ignited the Monday's demonstration. How and why will individuals be arrested and brutalized because they are holding a vigil night? That's the question I'm asking. Why will individual students be arrested? Students who are being prepared to go to the world and face realities in the world. Don't we all hold demonstrations in this country? Don't we all hold vigil nights and all that in this country? Since when did it become a crime? To the extent that students participating in it will be brutalized, will be arrested, where one will even be hospitalized. And so the other students in solidarity decided that they are going to have a demonstration. And the demonstration is on the background that when the earlier students held the vigil, to bring to bear these policies that I have mentioned earlier on. And their displeasure with it, management saw it as illegal and decided to allow the internal security to brutalize them. So they decided to solidarize with them. Now, in doing so, which I support absolutely the solidarization, but in doing so, they ended up going beyond boundaries. And that is where I condemn the excesses in absolute totality. I condemn it. I have seen some videos on WhatsApp, which I'm sure almost all of us have also seen them, where some students were, vandalizing, burning down cars of lecturers, destroying properties. I think in one of the lecture halls they were breaking down the furniture and all that. But you see, these are things that later on you'll be using as students to learn. And so whilst I support the solidarity march, the demonstration, I condemn absolutely they taking the law into their hands by going beyond. And the reason why I condemn this is that I have listened to some of the spokespersons of the students, and one of them was quick to say that they don't even see why, in quotes, illiterate security men on campus will be controlling them. Maybe it's because those internal security men have been going beyond bounds, as I was trying to establish earlier on. So yes, I agree. But hey, if you are condemning so-called illiterate security men for maltreating you, then it is just prudent that you, who is a learned person, will set the example for the illiterate security man to see and to follow. It is just prudent that if you, who is the literate one, you, who is the educated one, and as I said, the university is forming you to come and face the realities in the world. Those who are outside and have not had the opportunity to enjoy university education are looking up to you for you to set the example and to tell them how civilization is supposed to be, how rule of law is supposed to be. And so if I am the educated one, and it is believed that I am enlightened to appreciate and understand reading and writing, to appreciate and understand rule of law, and I am seen vandalizing, what I'm communicating to the outside world and everyone is that when you are not being heard, you should resort to violence. And that I condemn. Fortunately, I haven't really heard anyone supporting that, in course of the week. And I am happy about it, because what the students did, yes, we may have some that are relatively younger, but there are adults in it. What they did is not the way to go, and they are not supposed to communicate to those outside, those looking up to them, that it is okay to take the law into your own hands. That is not it. Reports indicate that about 20 vehicles have been burnt. That is unacceptable. Even if it is one vehicle, it is unacceptable. As I said, myself, I have seen some videos where students, yes, we've all been students before, and we understand the environment and how things goes. But under no circumstance should we allow the environment to lead us on to break rules and regulations. You do not establish your displeasure, or you do not establish your disagreements by taking the law into your own hands. It doesn't work that way. And so we condemn it. And I believe and I hope that not just KNUST, but across board, in all our schools, institutions, the educational institutions that are supposed to be bringing out civilized persons, I am hoping and believing that this will be the last of us witnessing this. Strangely, I have heard one professor saying that since he went to be a lecturer on campus, and as far as he can recall, this is the most violent demonstration he has ever seen. Of course, we could have, if management had set its priorities right, if management had decided to do what needed to be done, I am sure we wouldn't have even gotten to this stage. But in getting to this stage, the students do not also have any right to have taken the law into their own hands. You understand? Now, moving to the next one, which had to do with, now, yes, the students have done that. Quickly, the Ministry of Education came in, which again, the stage at which the ministry came in, I am still not so convinced about it, because as a nation, our fundamental problem is the way leadership exhibits this fire service approach to issues. When the issue begins, authorities will keep quiet on it till it escalates. And when it escalates, that is when we quickly come in and then say, okay, oh, there's fire on the mountain, let us put the fire off. We put the fire off and we all go back and sit down. The Ministry of Education, for our information, have got a deputy minister who is in charge of tertiary education.
It's a minister of state.
Oh, minister of state rather. In charge, a minister of state.
Yeah, not deputy.
Not deputy.
Minister of state.
A whole minister. Yes, Professor Yanka. A whole minister of state. Thank you for that. Not even a deputy minister. A whole minister in charge of tertiary education. What is his role? His number one role is to play a supervisory role on the universities. Is it that Professor Yanka was sleeping on his job as a minister in charge of tertiary education? Is it that he was not aware of these unpleasant policies that the management of the university were introducing and imposing on the students? Is it that the minister in charge of tertiary education was not aware of the fact that a vigil was held some weeks back and some students were arrested and one was brutalized and was even hospitalized? Isn't it also ironical that when the Ministry of Education decided to step in throughout all this period, I don't know of you, but I have not heard Professor Yanka playing any role in all this? If Professor Yanka doesn't have a role to play, then why do we appoint him so that we, The taxpayers' money will be used to pay him. Why is he being paid? Why is Professor Yanka being paid if his work can be done by NAPO? These are the questions that I'm asking. These are the questions that I'm asking. That what is the essence of creating a ministry in charge of tertiary education? And all these issues will bring us to this stage. Is it just one of example of what we always refer to as just creating jobs for the boys? Is that it? Because this is very serious, and I want us to look at it very, because throughout Monday to date, I haven't heard and I haven't seen any person who comments on this issue asking of the whereabouts of Professor Yanka. If he is in charge of tertiary education, we have a whole minister in charge of tertiary education. This shouldn't have happened. I want to know his role in this. But you see, the other thing that comes up is that, yes, so the Professor Yanka is nowhere to be found. I don't know the role he's playing, even though we are using our taxpayers' money to pay him. I am not still able to understand and see his role in all this. Now, the Minister of Education steps in. We are told the Minister of Education held a stakeholders meeting and then went to give a proposal to the president. And that made the president to form an interim committee or interim council, where the original council has been dissolved. Good. One, when the minister went to campus to hold a stakeholders meeting, which people constituted the stakeholders? Because hearing the UTAC local president, that is, if what he's saying is true, he says that they were not part of that consultative meeting. But I was thinking that UTAC plays a significant role in all this. And so if the ministry or the minister decides to go and hold a stakeholders meeting, or to go and have a stakeholders meeting, UTAC should have been part of it. We are told UTAC wasn't part of it. Now, what went into that's the first one. The second one, what really went into the Minister of Education coming out with the proposal that was given to the president? I want to know what really, on what grounds did the minister decide that, okay, this is the proposal we are giving to you, Mr. President, for you to act on? These are questions that we need to ask ourselves. But most importantly, I have heard people talking more about the fact that the president acted arbitrarily and he dissolving the council wasn't right and all that. But Senator, unfortunately, those making those comments, I haven't really heard anyone giving me any legal basis for that argument, and so I am tempted to believe or to assume that those arguments are being made just based on morality and not legal grounds, and so it becomes difficult for me to also wage into that kind of argument, because I've tried doing some few legal search and I'm struggling to really understand legally where the president erred in forming that committee. But I have a problem with the constitution, the membership that makes up that council. It's a 9-member council, right? 9-member council. Now, this 9-member council, 5 out of the 9 are members of the original council. All right? Now, the mandate given to this new, so-called new council is to look into the merits and the demerits of what transpired and to identify who was at fault and who was not at fault. if this is the basic mandate given to the so-called new council, I am struggling to appreciate what outcome will be given, knowing very well that 5 of the current council were part of the council that generated the problems of which this new council is supposed to investigate. How can you then be a judge in your own case or in your own court? If the committee meets, whatever they do, the council does, and it gets to a stage where they need to vote, I mean, you should know where the voting will definitely go to. It will be very difficult for the 5 members that were in the original council to see to it that this current council will indict the actions of the original council. And so the question then will arise: are we going to make a headway out of this, or we will just be spinning and we'll come back to square one? These are the difficulties and the questions I'm asking. But again, UTAC says that they are not even part of that council. They don't have a rep on that council. And that's, again, I have a difficulty with. How can a council be set up and UTAC doesn't have a rep on it? That I want to associate with the UTAC president, the local president, and say that the president, in constituting this new council, erred by not including a rep from UTAC. I want to say that, and I want to associate with the UTAC local president, that the president erred in that. But whilst I associate with the UTAC president on that position, I also think that it is not in the best, or it is not the best approach for UTAC to declare a strike. It is not. You cannot in fighting a so-called illegality, you do not fight it by also exhibiting illegality. Strike is not the best way to handle this approach. And I do not expect that UTAC will declare a strike, which they have done. I want to plead with them to rescind that decision, whilst we focus on the main issue, which has to do with why the president and the minister and the Ministry of Education would decide to constitute a new council and take off a rep from UTAC. That we should concentrate on. And I'm sure if they bring out this argument, they will get public sympathy, just as I am associating with it, because it makes logical sense that if you have a whole council constituted, at least there should be a rep from the UTAC board to be part of it. It just makes a lot of sense. But for you to say that because we are not part of it, for you to say that a student rep is part of it and we are not part of it, and for that matter we are declaring a strike, I don't associate with that. And in any case, they should also start to appreciate the fact that students are not just students, they are key stakeholders, just as they themselves, the lecturers, are key stakeholders in whatever happens in the school. Indeed, the school will cease to exist if there are no students. And so they should appreciate the importance of the students in there. I am just hoping and believing that we will be able to get to the end of this, and then quickly we'll be able to, academic work will assume or resume. But you see, in doing that, my fear now is whether or not this new council will be able to get to the end of the matter, knowing very well that majority of the members are the same members that were part of the council or management team that created this problem and this mess. Let us see how best we can move on with this. Let us look at the reconstitution of the council again. Let us see how we can bring on board a rep from the UTAC. Let us see how best we can, diminish the presence of the old council in this new council, so that to a very large extent we'll be able to form, we'll come out with, an independent view of what is really happening and see the way forward out of it. But in conclusion, if indeed the new council is supposed to look at what really transpired and the way forward, the question I'm asking, which probably since Prof is here, he may be able to give an answer to it.
I'm not in management.
Couldn't it have been possible? Couldn't it have been possible for the council to have still been in operation whilst we form an independent committee to look into what is happening, to propose a way forward? That is a question I'm asking. Couldn't it have been possible? Because if we are saying that a council has done wrong, and so the council should be dissolved, and that's the only way we will be able to get to the end of the matter, then so many things comes into my mind. If there's an illegality in a particular ministry, do we dissolve that ministry and set up an interim committee or council? If the presidency is purported to have engaged in an illegality, do we dissolve the presidency and set up an interim council? I'm just wondering, and I'm still struggling to get an answer. Why should we dissolve the old council just because we want a council to look into the current issue? Maybe Prof will answer that when it gets to the stage.
It's not your
I told you that.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. And if you just join us, you're listening to Alhaji And Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. My name is Senna Numbo. We had Emmanuel Wilson, who is the Communications Director of the PNC. Before we hear from the other panelists, a couple of your thoughts on the NUST issue. And this one is on Facebook through PAB MCGH. If you want to watch the show live, just use Facebook and look for PAB MCGH. You can watch what is happening in the studio live. Rockling Berima Baroki says Berima Baroki says that, in my opinion, those captured in the video should be arrested and prosecuted in the law court. While Prekese Kwame Aristocrat says that Nanado made the call that he'll review NUST halls. So I don't see why people are blaming the Vice Chancellor. And don't forget that Professor Yanka and Napo supported the Vice Chancellor to convert a Katanga into a mixed hall. So what is the beef of Samie Ukun and Abi and Abronye to politically sack the VC? Are those people part of the University Council to dictate the pace and decision for the school authorities? If not politics, who is Abronye to take decision for NUST? Everything Nanado touches 10 basa. Check Galamsey, secondary education, banking sector, and football because of his political approach and vindictiveness. That's from Prekese Kwame Aristocrat. A couple more of the messages on Facebook, and those are what we have on Facebook. On WhatsApp, through our WhatsApp platform, 0233 5905, and this one says, good morning, Radio Gold. On the NUST issue, the poor handling of the situation cannot be discussed without blaming Professor Yanka, Minister of State responsible for tertiary education, as well as the minister himself, Napo, who is an alumnus of NUST. Didn't they see the signs on the horizon? In fact, both ministers should be fired for their poor handling of the situation. Thanks. That's from Antioquia. Tafa in American says the move to dissolve the governing council and form an interim council without the VC or any representative from the lecturers is not the best, especially when the government decided to add the SRC president in the new council. I think this is really disrespectful to the school authorities and the lecturers in general. And this one from Baba Abotariye in Achali Boshe, St. Peter says, Good morning, Sana. Please let Ghanaians know that the issues at NUST is backed by government with the intention to sack the Vice Chancellor. The MPP communicators have made it public that very soon he will be history. And this one from Sam in UK says, Sana, good morning. This government is completely useless and super incompetent. Instead of trying to fix the feud between the university and the students, they rather decided to use the situation as another avenue to create non-existent jobs for their supporters. I will not be surprised if some members of the Delta Force were hired to assist the students to perpetuate the damages we all saw in the media. They have sacked every VC appointed by the NDC, and this is yet another one. Why should the VC be sidelined whilst the man with the big nose is still in post? Think about it. MPP is a big disappointment to all of us, and never again should we try another Oluman to come and mess up our dear nation. And finally, Jojo from Taifa says, good morning, comrades. This nation is being misled by Nana Oguejuma. Nothing seems to be working because they are hollow. As far as I'm concerned, Ghana is not safe under this corrupt leader. Akufo-Addo is a cause of no mayhem because from a reliable source, the students petitioned him when the whole thing started. Besides, to find out the truth from two factions, you don't leave one faction behind and only listen to one faction. Only small brains work in that manner. The news issue is a complete attempt to sack the Vice Chancellor because Akufo-Addo wasn't allowed to campaign there in 2016. Nothing is working apart from grabbing a massive corruption. Let me bring in Alhaji ABF Husseini.
Thank you very much.
You didn't add honorable.
Honorable.
I'm not overly associated with the title. Like a Nigerian journalist said to somebody, he didn't address him as doctor. So because I didn't address you as doctor, has it changed your face? Yes, I just the tail end of the submission of my brother and comrade Wilson, when he talked about the visible loud silence of Professor Yanka.
Yeah.
I remember this was a virulent critique of the NDC government when the NDC was in power, and the competence he claimed some of them had, which was not being utilized by the nation. And Allah in his infinite wisdom has put him in charge today. I've always said that it's comparison that disgraces a donkey. When the donkey is running alone, it is perceived to be the fastest animal. Let the horse join the race. And the donkey will smoke the dust of that it will be exposed for the ass that it is. Today, by the grace of Allah Almighty, Professor Yaka is in charge of tertiary education. Look at what is happening. Complete ineptitude. A minister, a full minister at the ministry, 2 deputy ministers, a minister in charge of tertiary education. Minister in charge of tertiary education. And is conspicuously missing in action. I have no doubt, and I've said it many times, that the MPP engaged deliberately, President Nana Akufo-Addo engaged in deliberate superfluous appointments. You saw the appointment of ministers as a job creation to flood the ministries, department, and agencies with the appointees of the MPP as a means of job creation. Otherwise, they have bereft of creating real viable jobs. But let me first and foremost, this one is just a teaser. Let me first and foremost say good morning to all the listeners of Radio Gold. Comrade Wilson, my brother Alhaji Haruna Rashid, and our respected and venerated professor, Dr. Nino.
You are not saying anything about that.
But you are even lucky. Me, I don't remember the last time I celebrated my birthday. It even passes before. It even passes before I reminded that today is your birthday. Yesterday, last week was your birthday. I don't even remember. And then to the good people of the Sanago constituency, and to your good self, and all the technicians who make this program very possible. I have no doubt in my mind, and I want to say it with all the clarity and ambiguity, lack of ambiguity. There's no ambiguousness in what I'm going to say. That what is happening at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology is a macrocosm. It's a reflection of the abysmal management of national affairs in virtually almost all facets of national life. Look at the state of our economy. I want to apologize to Mr. Wilson. It's in a free fall like a coconut newly liberated from a tree.
It comes on heavily and fast.
You see? Look at the free fall of the CD. The high cost, escalating cost of living, rising petrol prices uncontrollably, excruciating poverty and lives of Ghanaians today. Just under 2 years of a government, the government of President Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia. Banks collapsing, jobs collapsing. I mean, look at it across the national plane. So is it a wonder? And I can tell you this is not even the last we are seeing of these kinds of crises. Many crises across the length and breadth of the country that I can't even mention here. So as the Dagombe say, when a house has fallen, you don't ask whether the roof is still standing. The roof is just a component. The whole house is down. So, my brother, I have no doubt in my mind that it's a reflection of the kind of leadership that we have at the national level, at the helm of our affairs of the state today. This issue of news, and I want to say that if you want to do a very dispassionate job of this matter, you cannot, one particular institution or this can escape blame. I think that you have to be fair enough to apportion blames. If there are credits, yes, let them go around. If there are blames, you must be fair enough to apportion it between the major segments of the university community. Students, administrators, lecturers, ministers with oversight, whoever is involved in this matter. We must be fair enough to admit and say that every one of them must take a portion of the blame. I have heard from the students' angle, they have complained that they were very dictatorial tendencies from the side of administration. They've talked about the fact that the right of peaceful assembly for students, which has been taken for granted on campus, is being infringed upon. Students cannot exercise their democratic right of freedom to assemble, and that they are being hamstrung by certain actions of the administration that has tried to curtail some of these assembly rights. They've talked about security people brutalizing them, beating up students and locking them up in their internal jails on campus. They have talked about the right of freedom of associating being curtailed to the effect that they cannot, and I think the Comrade Wilson touched a bit on it, about you cannot visit somebody up to beyond 10 o'clock and that kind of this thing. I mean, admittedly, this is a very matured institution. It's not like the other senior high secondary schools where some types of interactions are curtailed for very good reasons. In a university, I think there is that freedom to allow people to associate and to do things. So when you have some of those restrictions coming in, naturally, I'm sure it will create some kinds of tension. And I think that if that is what has gone on, it raises some legitimate questions. We are also being told that certain policies have also been enacted, among which the one that has been very controversial has been the conversion of hitherto exclusively male or female halls into mixed halls of residence. I know that this is a subject matter pending before a competent court of jurisdiction, so one should not attempt to go into the merits and demerits of the case. But just suffice it to say that it is an issue that the University Council, and let us make this in very clear, and I want to make that in very clear. It is the University Council that initiates policy. Not the Vice Chancellor, not any other particular institution, not the Student Representative Council, but the University Council, in which all of them are represented. And it is important to state that point. That you have both institutional representation and also appointments by His Excellency the President. The President has nominees who sit on the council, and I think it is also chaired by the nominee of the President. Now, the institutional representation is to bring on board the expertise and interest of the various bodies that they represent onto council in the formulation of policies. So it is the council that deals with some of the university statutes. Prof, if I'm
when you were chairman of a council,
when a landlord is there, you don't ask the caretaker for confirmation. So I'm sure you are here. Yes. So I know that it is council that superintends, initiates policy for implementation by the management, and so that is why they bring on board all these institutional representatives to enrich the content of the statutes of the university, so that it be so broad-based in such a manner that all interests are virtually catered for, so that at the end of the day, you don't have significant sections of the university community left out in the formulation of policy, whose implementation should inure to the benefit of the university as a whole. So this has been it. So having looked at this, I'm sure it is important to place in the proper context, because I've heard people who are in a hurry to crucify the Vice Chancellor say that it is the Vice Chancellor who so moto decided to implement the conversion of the Katanga, and here it is in the case of Nust, it is Katanga which is the main boiling point. I have even hardly heard people talking about the female hall, even where males have also been sent. But it is Katanga because of the tradition and the sentimental attachment to that hall as being a male hall. You have a similar one in Legon, which is the Commonwealth Hall. So you have that issue of the conversion, which many people want to stick the odds against the Vice Chancellor and crucify him on the grounds that it is that single act of trying to implement that decision of council that has earned him the wrath of the students and the alumni in particular. Because the allegation to the effect that even the alumni allegedly was involved in the demonstration and even brought people from outside to participate. These allegations that are all flying around to the effect that would escalate the issue and get the Vice Chancellor out. And I want to hasten to say that this has not been helped. And I will come to that when we are looking. I'm not looking at just the causes. When we look at the effects, you see the politicization, the attempts to exude politics infuse politics into university administration. And the precedent that had been set in earlier times of removing certain officers, legitimately appointed officers whose eligibility criteria was not in doubt, who had been appointed to certain institutions of state, but who for politically partisan reasons are not acceptable to this government, that they have gone out to remove. You can go as far back as to the removal of the Rich Hospital Administrator, to the removal of the chairpersons of the Electoral Commission, the chairperson and the vice chairpersons of the Electoral Commission. You can name a host of others in state institutions that consciously this government has set up to remove from office. And so if you see that attempt to remove the Vice Chancellor, and like it's been saying, all these matters going around, the crises that are escalating every day, is to create a pretext for the removal of the Vice Chancellor. Our people say that when you see diarrhea going around the house, it is looking for the landlord. All these things gravitating around, the end of it is the vice chancellor, his head. I'll come to that. But I'm just saying that, so these are legitimate grievances that students have brought forward. And so how did it manifest? It manifested in an attempt to express this in a peaceful demonstration. And I am all out for the respect for the inalienable right of Ghanaians, no matter who they are, students, farmers, palm wine tappers, cocoa sellers, whoever they are, have an inalienable right to express their right of freedom to demonstrate. And it is no reason that the Constitution of the Republic grants that right. The only thing is that you need to just inform the police so that it will be harmonized in such a manner that it doesn't end in chaos. So the students exercise their right, but unfortunately, they also engage in egregious infractions. I think Kumari Wilson alluded to some of them. You could see the damage to both state and private property. As we speak, infrastructure in our tertiary institutions are not up to scratch in tandem with the large and ever-growing numbers of students patronizing our universities. I want to say that even under the government of His Excellency President Mama, a lot was done to upgrade infrastructure through the GET Fund by building more classroom blocks, halls of residence, accommodation facilities, science resource centers, and auditoriums, and whatever you can think of. In spite of that, we are still running a deficit in terms of the numbers. So for students to go and embark on a peaceful, what was supposed to be a peaceful day, and go and destroy property, I think it's totally unacceptable. It should not be allowed in the normal course of exercising a political right. And especially when you extend it to the destruction of vehicles and other private property, there can be no justification for that wanton act of destruction. And I think that the students must be prepared to take the flak for that. I also believe that in exercising your rights, there are also laid down procedures for channeling your grievances. And I think that insofar as that mechanism was present, we should have taken the step to ensure that that one was complied with. Now I come to the university administrators, and I want to say, like in reference to some of this, I think that they should be flexible enough to accept that a university community is a matured community where the rights and freedoms of students in particular and other members of the university community must be respected. In this day and age, I find it very difficult. And even in those days, we all attended universities. I don't even remember in the 70s and 80s when some of us were in the universities, you had this restriction where at a certain period of time, you will not be able to move from one hall to another or to freely associate. These are matured people. I think that whether it's a male or female or whoever, you have those. It's an academic community. And I'm sure that we should not put those strictures in at this time. And I think that the university administration must endeavor to be flexible on matters like this. If they still want to crack the whip on matters like this, I'm sure inevitably it will evoke tensions and others that may escalate to points where it is not possible to. And also complaints have been made about the security and the treatment. I think that we should also endeavor to find out the security in as much as they ought to also be respected by the university community. They must also do their work in tandem with the statutes and regulations of the university. I'm not sure it confers on them any right to brutalize anybody. Yes, if somebody is found to be in violation of the regulations and laws of the university, he can be arrested. And if there need be, even further sent to the police for action. But to take steps to brutalize people on campus, especially students over whom you have been employed in the first instance to protect, I think that in itself is also excessive and has to be looked at. And so I think that on the part of the administration, they do have certain shortcomings, I think, that needed to be addressed, and which I think they should take on board. But nevertheless, that is not a pretext, and I'm now coming to the effects. A pretext for what the action government took. And I've always said it, that this government, sometimes, in most cases, they take actions before they come back and realize the repercussions of their actions. I should have said it bluntly, but I want to be restrained. Because we just even saw, even in the constitution of the council, they removed the UTAC. And they have just come back now to say that, we have just realized that we left out UTAC, and UTAC should be back. If you are going to constitute a council, you don't even sit down to think and know that these are the members of council. You go and do the constitution of the council, then people start saying, even fundamental basic things have not been done. University teachers. No, if you are going to set up a university between students and lecturers, who do you employ first? Who do you get the students to start lectures when there are no lecturers? One of the first things you do is to recruit academic staff, lecturers. So that is one of the most important components, apart from students. So you will come, and in the face of a difficulty in the university, your first line of action is to decapitate the administration. I liken it to this in our way, say, if you have a sore on your leg, it's your first course of action amputation.
Try to treat it.
And that is the standard of the NPP. When they have a sore on their leg, they are in a hurry to go for amputation. They think that the panacea to the sore-ridden leg is to amputate it, and not to treat it, heal it, and make better use of the leg. So I completely disagree, and I've had a limited look. I've not had the full gamut of the statutes of the university and the law, but I find it. I have not, from what I've read, I have not found anywhere that government is empowered to create an interim council. I don't know of that. Anybody who knows that law that gives government the right to set up an interim council, I don't know of that. Yes, His Excellency the President has an inalienable right enshrined, I think it's Article 70 or something, and then the statutes of the university, to appoint representatives to the council of the university, including the chairman of council. But you are talking about other matters. You are talking about matters related to an institution that is semi-autonomous. The universities are not run like the ministries or politically oriented bodies. It's a semi-autonomous institution where substantial degree of academic freedom is given to them. They are insulated in many respects from direct interference and control by government. And so it is not like any other institution where government can just issue a fiat and it is done. No. So Mr. Government has to tread carefully. And it is important that the academic freedoms in our universities are not only respected, but are seen to be respected. So in the announcement that was that dissolved the university council, if even saying without admitting that government had a basis for doing so, I think that even on rational grounds, I think the government should have stayed that action and waited. Like Comrade Wilson raised the point. Where is the input of the Minister of State for tertiary education? This crisis had been on for quite some time now. How engaged and involved was he? What was the output? Secondly, I even hear that in this particular matter, we have not heard from the Chancellor.
Yeah.
His Eminence, Nana Otufo Osei Tutu II. My understanding was that he had even convened a meeting that Nana Osei-Tutu had convened a meeting of the council, including lecturers and others, to try and get to the bottom of the matter. While this was in process, this knee-jerk, desperate measure was announced, dissolving the council. And so, obviously, the matter was taken away from his hands. Why do we have a chancellor? Why was Nana Osei-Tutu appointed the chancellor of the university? Was it not to give him the benefit of his rich experience and his status in our society, to use his powers to bring all other stakeholders to the table to get them to fashion out a solution? So why have they taken the ball away from his court? Why did they not allow him time as chancellor of the university to use the benefit of his high office and his authority as Otufo to get to the solution of the matter? And it was taken away. So even in this matter, the chancellor, who has legitimate functions to perform for the university, has even been denied the opportunity to do his work. So why was government in an indecent hurry, indecent haste, to undertake this measure? And it is not far-fetched. I will prefer a partial answer. You see, our people say that when you hear the howling of the hyena in the neighborhood and your goat gets missing, don't ask who caught it. We have heard in the public domain, on social media, the national youth organizer of the New Patriotic Party, Nana Boachi, popularly called Nana B, said that very, very sooner than later, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Science and Technology, Professor Danso, will become a thing of, he will become a history. He will become a thing of the past. That they will uproot him like cassava.
It's in the mandate of the interim committee.
Yes. This one is not, he didn't say it from the comfort of his bedroom. In the public domain. And he's come out to defend it. Abronye, sometimes I don't know how to pronounce it. Forgive me, I'm a Savannah product. He's come out to even say worstest about the removal. And they are even calling for the purging. That's what they are talking about. That they should purge public institutions of people who are not in tune with them, who are not MPP by extension. So, my brother, you have ample evidence of an agenda by the ruling party to undertake a purge. And I had given you indications earlier about some people who have already been removed from their positions. And even in the universities, we have an example at University of College of Education, Winneba, and other institutions of state. So perhaps the indecent haste that we are seeing in this matter is as a result of an agenda to clear some people out. And like I told you, it is not hidden. Many people who can see that all these things are gravitating around the Vice Chancellor. They want the Vice Chancellor out. And the only thing you can do is to create zones of instability around him. Put him in the mess, put him at the center and responsibility for the mess. And then you then have a healthy pretext for uprooting him as they have planned to do. Otherwise, the University Council should have been given the opportunity to deal with the matter. That is why the council was appointed in the first instance. So the University Council, the Chancellor and others, when steps had even been initiated to get it done. So I agree with many of the things Comrade Wilson said, but I disagreed about the action on the University Council. In the first case, I think the legal status of an interim council is doubtful. Okay. It's doubtful. And now come to consider even the composition of the council. As I said, we are composing an interim council, and one of the most important segments, in fact two two segments of the most important in the university community. The University Teachers Association. If there are no teachers in the university, it is an empty shell. They will be reduced to tourists. They will be walking around the campus. Doing what? That is why it's the university community. People with the accumulated knowledge and expertise to impart to them. And then the administration, the vice chancellor. There's no way a council can operate without a vice chancellor. Who is the head of the administration in the university? So how can you be talking about the affairs of a house and say the landlord must be excluded? My brother, you're talking about the house. And then the one who owns the house, the landlord, he must be excluded from the discussion. It's a joke. So you exclude the vice chancellor. And then you say that one of the very bizarre arguments I've heard is that because the vice chancellor perhaps was excluded because he was a party to the conflict. Interesting. So the students are not a party to the conflict. Is that the argument? Who are the parties to the conflict? Is it not basically management and the students? So if the vice chancellor represents management and the SRC represents students, how come the SRC is on the interim management and the vice chancellor is not there? What kind of bizarre? And that is the logic of this government when you put them to question. That is why I said that I am being very restrained. Because you go and do things before you realize the implications of what you have done. Otherwise, why would you argue that parties to the conflict should not be included in the council? Then you take away the vice chancellor but include the students. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? It doesn't one bit. And it betrays your intention. Say that if you don't know death, look at sleep. It betrays your intention and whatever it is that you are seeking to do. And that is why I think it cannot hold one iota of decency that we are carrying on in this matter. It is important. You see, I have heard the actions of the University Teachers Association, and Comrade Wilson said that they were involved in an illegitimate action in pronouncing the local branch of UTAC, that's the NUS branch, declaring that they were on strike. If you look at it with the ambit of the law, yes, maybe from the labor laws, there may be questions for them to answer. No argument about that. But have we also looked at the other laws that we are talking about? You see, because extraordinary problems beget extraordinary solutions. And I have said that if, you see, like these people are, the behavior they are putting up, if somebody releases bad air on you and you are overzealous to retaliate, you bring out the real thing. This is the kind of measure. The interim council is an overzealous attempt by government to retaliate and take steps against the university administration. And look at how they have swallowed themselves. They have brought out the real thing. Instead of flatulence, what is coming out is undesirable. And so I think that we should pull from the brink. Because we are talking about the lives and the future of people who are going to run the affairs of this state tomorrow. Look, go and look at the mandate that was given to them. Within 3 weeks or 2 weeks, they should be able to stabilize it and call the students back. Yeah. Now the lecturers are on strike. They have announced an indefinite, and that one is not tomorrow. They said indefinite. Indefinite means none of us knows how long it's going to go. Because they have tied it to number one, that the council that they consider illegitimate, because they say they don't recognize the interim council instituted by government. And so one of the preconditions for the lecturers returning to work is for government to abandon that reckless act of constituting an interim council. So if they have a mandate of 2 weeks or 3 weeks for, them to work and now it is even escalation beyond even what they thought, because they now have a bigger problem to deal with again in terms of getting the lecturers, because you cannot call back students to the distance when lecturers are on strike. What will be the import? So it is important that we pull back from the brink and allow the statutes of the university and the laws of the university to work. We must allow the old council that was there to work. It is not for nothing. If government is not satisfied with the work of the council, like I said, government has about 5 representatives, including the chairman. Government can withdraw the decision, inject more competent people. If they think this batch of people are not competent, they should inject more competent people as council members to go and take hold of the council and make sure that the competence that they say they want manifested to manifest, to work. But government cannot. Government doesn't have authority to constitute a representative for UTAC. They cannot. The alumni, they cannot. Those institutional representatives. It is the bona fide right of the institutions to so pick people to go and represent them. So government also has its part. If it is not satisfied with the output of the council per the object of its member, it should do so. But it cannot. So moto on its own, as it were, stampede the council out of existence and bring in an interim council whose existence is of doubtful legal presence. I'm not a lawyer, but I can. A lot of law is also common sense. It doesn't mean that those of us who are not lawyers are idiots or ignoramuses. We also have sense. A lot of the law is common sense, and so we know that some of these things are not anchored, properly speaking, on just legality, but on common sense. So on rational grounds, I want to urge this government to eat humble pie. They should eschew arrogance. I've heard them many times say they are a listening government. But sometimes you can be listening without hearing. I may be saying I'm listening to you, but I don't hear what you are saying. So I think they should both listen, hear, and more importantly, act. The university is an important human resource training institution. And the signals that we are sending out to the international community is not a very good one. That governments can so capriciously intervene in university administrations and compromise academic freedom. I have heard the national UTAC issue a solidarity statement on this particular matter and say that they are all in full support, and if even they have to invoke national action across the country to support their colleague lecturers at the University, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, so be it. They are prepared to do that because they are all fearful that government is beginning to erode academic freedoms on our university campuses. They are beginning to intrude aggressively into the freedoms that our university world in terms of insulation of their actions from governmental interference and control. And so if they allow what is happening at NUS to go ahead, tomorrow they will bring it to Legon. Before you realize again, it will go to another university. Because, you see, dictatorship is a madness. When it infects one area and you think you are insulated from it, you will be the next victim. I'm sure that is why there is this wholesale feeling that government's actions are so predatory that they should stand up now and speak. And the fact that they are standing up now and speaking and challenging government on this thing is a good thing for this country. For far too long, we have sat down and allowed the festering dictatorship that is going on to go on. And you have all sorts of things being done in the name of government, in the name of powers that are granted to people, and nobody challenges them. And it gets to a point where the sanctity of these national laws are being brought into question. So I want to say without any iota hesitation that the escalation of this matter is fundamentally the work of government. Okay. If government had not gone ahead to pronounce the dissolution of the University Council and proceeding on that basis to plant an interim council of doubtful legal status, I'm sure that we will not be where we are today. I just want to end on this note that yes, in every institution, problems might arise. You undoubtedly would get situations where officers who are supposed to do their work, who have not done their work in tandem with what public expectations are, will come about. But the answer, like I said, it's not the wholesale decapitation of those institutions. Why? We have had problems at the presidency. Have we set up an IMC at the presidency? We have had problems just a few days ago. In fact, the Inspector General of Police was almost sent to jail. He had actually been found guilty by a court of contempt and was on the verge. The court had brought him that day to sentence him to jail. He was going to jail, the IGP. The Attorney General had to rush to court. Okay? To go and bail out the IGP. Are we saying that all those infractions that happened, we should have put an IMC, interim police council or something at the police headquarters? There are many of these shortcomings that we have. So, like I said, the panacea for hunger is not to hold feces in your stomach. It's to go look for food to eat. Let's get rational, cogent, well thought out answers to problems that come, and not knee-jerk, desperate, politically motivated actions that we are trying to implement, such as we are doing. This will only spare the death knell of our institutions. And I think that under this government, we are having one too many of such crass incompetence.
Alhaji, thank you very much. And this one is from Kojochum Boafo. He says that, Senna, tell Alhaji ABF Husseini that even though the landlord is important in the scheme of things, the teen god is the ultimate decider. In the contiguous walls of Ghana, we have our own version of a teen god. Since the beginning of 2017, we have elected a teen god who does exactly what he wants to do, and no one can do a damn thing about it. This government has given new meaning to capriciousness in government, and that's coming from Kojo Chumbwa. Let me read a couple of the messages you are sending on Facebook. Zane Ko says the culture of leadership towards student leaders in almost all the tertiary institutions has always been that of, we have been here before you came. We are the permanent members and you are just passing by. We are older and know better. There's no problem with this mindset until it begins to translate into a pattern of quashing the prerogative of student leaders. When student leaders have often been invited to table their opinions at council meetings, it has mostly been about, this is what we have decided, go and discuss it with executives, than to listen and properly consider their interests. Student leaders who take up power merely to maintain the status quo, just to have a portfolio next to their names, have often enjoyed the huzzas of these old men. Those who dare to serve against the tide and disrupt the status quo have often been met with a full artillery of malice and hostility. It is surprising that the chronology of facts that led to the unpleasant demonstration have been cheapened, the distractions intentionally emboldened. You cannot continue being Gandhi when your colleague are being beaten. To you, Tag, and the rest who wish to preach autonomy to us, our response is simple. When society agreed to confer on higher learning institutions the autonomy and freedom to function, it did so under the assumption that these institutions would operate in the quiet and calm. Society did not in any way or form give universities jurisdiction to preside over chaos, especially when the chaos has proven beyond control. Autonomy must bow to the force of mandatory and overriding principles in a civilized society. When the fundamentals of your leadership is weak, the dissolution will expose you. And Ebenezer Obinche says, good morning, Ghana. The way the hardship is going, I don't think we as a people will live till 2020 and vote, because some of us are dying with dry pockets for a fact. And he sends that from Aveime. And Elliot Kalai says, the overlord of Proverbs. Good morning, Honorable ABF Husseini. And Francis Asemeni says Akufo-Addo is using the presidency for litigation and not for the progress of Ghana. And finally, Julius Agahoa Tahiru says the dissolution of Governing Council of NUST by government is unfair and an attempt to sack the VC. How on earth can the minister put the SRC president on the committee and ask the VC to step aside? The education minister should also resign because the Governing Council was under his watch and was aware of all what was happening before the students' demonstration. Regards to Captain Joshua Hamidu Akamba. He says their next national organizer, and Uncle Dan, our next national chairman, and that's coming from Julius Agahoa in Asawasi. And just 2 messages from WhatsApp before I bring in Alhaji Haruna. And this one from Akugri Rashid says that we are listening to Honorable Ibi Efusini making the day laudable, and a few more. I salute you, Mr. Hose, and your panelists. Please, with all respect, I want your panelists to give reasons why, particularly those halls were declared as male and female halls when the university was initiated during Osajifo's era. This will enable some of us draw our own conclusion with regard to this impasse. From Philip Adika, A.K. Odaseni in Italy. And then finally, Musa Bato in Kumasi says, I'm all for demonstration, but I will never support hooliganism in the name of expressing your democratic right. In respect of NUST, what the students did is unacceptable, but let's lose the fact that both the University Council and the students, one way or the other, have a case. 1, the brutality meted out to students by the campus security because they are holding vigil is avoidable. 2, the decision taken by the council to cancel Jama, which is an entertainment since the establishment of the university, is totally needless. However, the failure by the Education Ministry or government to manage the situation from day one is a clear example of super incompetent leadership. Ghana deserves better. Alhaji.
Good morning. Thank you, Senna. And let me start off by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all our listeners and viewers. My senior colleagues have done justice to the subject. Alhaji Abi Husseini and Comrade Wilson has done, really good job on it, and I'm sure Prof would do even more, meaning that he's even closer to the institutions that we're talking about. What, as you heard, they have dissected and looked at various angles of this issue, starting from the problems that precipitated this whole thing. What I'd like to do first and foremost is to, without any doubt, set it out that I condemn, and it should be condemned, any violence, whether it's from the students or from the university management. There's absolutely no room for violence. There's no room for destruction of personal property or public property, as it happened in this case. And also the brutalization of any students, the temporary incarceration of any students, caning of any students, absolutely no room for it. This is more so, especially, we are talking about one of the flagship universities in Ghana, and one of the best universities arguably in the whole of Africa. And if anything, they should be exhibiting the kind of intellectual capacity that you would expect to come from such an institution. Now, having said that, I'm not going to go back into the issues that have already been looked at in terms of, the problems, what started this whole thing, and how different people could have done what they were supposed to do, like the Minister of State in charge of tertiary, Professor Yanka, and the decision to sack the governing council. How do you sack a council and then say, okay, I'm now going to investigate to find out what the problem is. It just does not make sense. Where is the presumption of innocence? Our Constitution guarantees that each and every one of us is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And besides that, natural justice. We need to look at all these things. Where is the equity? But, I'm going to cut to the chase and say this from my point of view. When you look at the pattern of behavior, okay, not only from Winneba, University of Education, Winneba, but also other institutions, and it has been mentioned here, semi-autonomous government institutions, the way this Nana Akufo-Addo government, the MPP government it seems to have it out against any institution whose managers were not appointed by them. All you have to do is look at the pattern of behavior, and it becomes very clear. This happened in Winneba, this happened with EC, and now you have KNUST. And to really, what takes the cake for me is that how do you sack a council, a governing council, and then appoint an interim council, a 9-member council, and you have 5 members of that council coming from the council that you just sacked? It just does not make sense to me. But maybe when you look at it from another angle, this whole thing is set up. It is done to get rid of one and only one person, the VC, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Danso. Okay? Because the governing council was actually appointed by this same Nana Akufo-Addo government, except for the Vice Chancellor, who happened to be there before the governing council was appointed. He was appointed by the previous administration. So this is their way of getting around to get rid of him. But you see, there's a larger issue that we need to look at. What is the purpose? What is the primary purpose of a university? What is the primary purpose of a university? We have a professor here who can probably answer that better than I can, but from my point of view is to what? Impart knowledge, technical knowledge, behavioral knowledge, how to do things, teaching, learning institution. Is that being done now? What are we doing? What is the result? What is the impact of the decisions taken so far by the Nana Akufo-Addo government? Are they advancing education, or they are retrogressing education? And we can go all the way back to this, their flagship policy that they shoved down our throats. The SHS, what is happening to it? Our people will say, Atitiam Pansa. It's all, messed up completely. And now you have, the teacher trainees, they're having issues. And now you also have the university students. So if we are not careful, now KNUST is been closed indefinitely. What good does that do? How does that promote learning, and how does that promote teaching? how does that advance what the students, especially foreign students from all over Africa and other parts of the world that have come to Ghana to gain some education? And now with the curfew, there's a lot of questions being raised. The insecurity, the confusion, the lack of information as to how do they go about, what do they do, where do they live? Some of them even don't have the money. I've heard some of my colleagues, talk about having to send mobile money to some of the students so that they can go back home. See, this pattern of behavior, we need to really rise up and speak vociferously against it. We cannot sit back and let this government rule by fiat. It just does not make sense. First, like I said, it was Winneba. You have EC. You have Ridge Hospital. There are so many other institutions. And they have politicized this whole thing. Immediately this thing happened, Nana B was on social media saying that Professor Danso's days are numbered. And indeed, within a short period of time, the governing council was sacked. And now you have the MPP Ashanti Regional chairman, Wontemi, even though he doesn't need to be taken seriously, but he's out there making some nonsensical statements about how the former president John Dramani Mahama, worked out this whole thing. It was at his insistence that the students went on strike. It just does not make sense. You try to ask yourself why, what brought us to this? Why are we here? Should any government, just because you did not appoint certain managers when they come to power, then have to turn everything upside down? If indeed governance and development is a continuum, does this not go against all the things that they've been talking about, the progress, the development, the industrialization, and other things that it seems like we're taking, one step forward only to have us pushed back 3 or 4 steps back? Why should the issue of mixed having mixed sex accommodation be an issue in this day and age? I respect and I understand the issue about tradition, culture, morale, and all those kind of things, but for God's sake, couldn't we, the SRC, the governing council, be consulted? Can't we have a dialogue? Can't we talk to each other? And yes, the students may be young, but they are adults. Even if chronologically they may be underage, because now you have students as young as 13 entering university. But the average age, I think, is somewhere between 17 and 18 years old. The capacity, the mental capacity at least would, tell me that we should be able to sit down and have an intellectual conversation to come to some point of understanding, some common ground, so things don't have to go down the way that they have. especially not going down to the point of vandalism, the destruction of personal property, the destruction of, public property, and the brutalization of students. It is totally, totally unacceptable. But to me, what is even more unacceptable is the insidious fight against the institution, the institutional capacity of having some autonomy to make decisions that would inure to the benefit not only to the students and the professors, but to the whole nation and our world view, how the world looks at us. Because the very day this thing happened, it was right on BBC radio. They were interviewing students. They had, I think, 4 students, KNUST students that they were interviewing. See, now we live in a global village. Things happen now, and within 30 seconds, actually, it's live streamed. We have a 24-hour news cycle. So as it is happening here or as it is happening somewhere else, we get the news right away. We need to jealously guard the reputation that Ghana has been able to, earn over the years. This is not the kind of reputation that we want the world to know about us. It is not right. And it's certainly not right that these kind of political machinations be brought on board so that we try to get rid of VCs and other managers just because we did not appoint them. It does not make sense. It does not help us as a nation in our journey through the developmental process. It does not. And it's illegal. It's illegal. It is just not right. When you look at the University Act and statutes, it is illegal. There's a process. There's a mechanism. You don't get up and just sack the governing council. Just like that. You don't. It just does not make sense. It is not right. But then again, a lot of things have happened in this country since December 2016 that I just did not believe it could happen. But it's happened, and it's still happening. From all the illegalities, when you look at the corrupt activities, the nepotism, the friends and family, the chop that is going on, the Maritime Authority, boss. And to this day, none of these things have been resolved. And I bet you, this thing with the 3 months, interim council is probably going to go down that road again. Nana Akufo-Addo has become like Teflon Nana. Nothing sticks to him. Nothing seems to stick. But, as we go through this, drip, 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 one day, inshallah, the cup will be filled. The cup will be filled. So let me now just, let me now go over things that we've already discussed, but the point of the matter is that we need to condemn violence in all its forms, whether it's against students, it's against other teachers and professors, public property, personal property. It is absolutely unacceptable. And what is even more insidious in my view is to allow the machinations that we've seen at the EC, the things that we've seen at the Winneba, at Ridge Hospital, and other governmental institutions, all for political purposes. It is unacceptable, it's un-Ghanaian, and it's just not right. It stinks. I would have expected that His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, with all the talk about him being a human rights lawyer, he would have shown us an exemplary way of doing things. But unfortunately, it looks like he's still being misled. He's still being misled. The bottom line is the buck stops with him. The buck stops with him. So, you know, and sometimes these things are not going to, are not just going to change themselves. We have to stand up. We have to make our voices heard. We have to let people know we object to this kind of political machinations, because what happens if when the NDC comes back and they do the same thing? The first thing they do is make sure, you know, look, the Bank of Ghana. What happened with the deputy governor of Bank of Ghana? What happened to EC? What happened to the VC at Winneba? And so many other institutions. And then NDC comes back and they said, well, this is our time. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to get rid of all these people. What happens? The ordinary Ghanaian, the David, the Ayele, the Salifu, the market women, they are the ones who are going to bear the brunt of these kind of issues. It is not right. Mr. President, this is not right. This is not what the Ghanaians voted for. We deserve better. You can do better. We expect you to do better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alhaji. And this one from Akwesi Sevens, I'm reading from our Facebook platform, PAB MCGH. So if you want to watch us, you can just check PAB MCGH. We are live there. And Akwesi Sevens says, kindly tell Alhaji ABA Fuseni that hearing is involuntary, while listening is conscious and deliberate. So we rather hear, but
somebody has thrown in a title
to listen. Thanks. And
this one free pass. Not me where there's prize money.
Patrick Senyo Ajadu says that the fact is that the Ghanaian student has so much power in Ghana, and they are not using this power the right way at all. I am not an MPP, but I will not and never support anything such as we saw on the Nost campus. And Kwesi Stevens again says that I have enjoyed my school life in boys' institutions through secondary school to Commonwealth Hall, and wish the halls were maintained as they currently are. However, the violent actions of those students have made me to have a second thought. And Kukuya Benedictus says, Senna, what is happening in the school, some will happen in the Volta, because the government is not ready to listen to the people's voice. Patrick Senya Ajadu again says, first time I heard a panel who is not arguing but agreeing and being very rational and not emotional. I have never ever seen this before in my life in Ghana. Habib Bantu says, good morning to Senna and your cherished listeners. If students of NUS could demonstrate because of some oppressions on them, then what should happen to President Akufo-Addo and his incompetent ministers? The massive corruption and thievery meted to Ghanaians when we say we are suffering. Akufo-Addo say free senior high school. It is time we the masses demonstrate and let Akufo-Addo know that we are suffering. Let changes bad and wicked change. Patrick Senyo Ajadu again says, government controls everything, even continues to our universities, but not how to control corruption in government. The government has no respect for any institution in Ghana and has no respect for the laws of the land. And A.U. Farouk in Tamale says, good morning to you, Senna, and to your able panelists. President Anado's leadership is full of violence and lawlessness everywhere. The news crisis is unfortunate, and the hardship Ghanaians are going through today should be the end, and never should Ghanaians entrust the destiny of Ghana in the hands of the NPP again. And some from our WhatsApp platform, Koblavio Pokwasi Bengazi says the ongoing, okay, he's talking about the NDC elections. He says that the ongoing women organizer election at Kaswa will be a great history in the books of our party, NDC, because, okay, he's campaigning for somebody. And
The voting has not started, so
yes.
everything you can
So,
change minds.
So if just two from WhatsApp platform, MPP is very predictable. While they don't want to sack the VC themselves, as predicted by Aubrey Boahin, they gave the power to the interim board, whom will surely do the sacking. Derek Adenta, that is from him. And peace be unto you all. Hey, what am I hearing? Wound to me, so you have the audacity to threaten GM. Wow. You are really arrogant and annoying, indeed. The Bible even talks about pride, and whoever is proud, he brings down, and the humble he lifts up. So, my friend, humble yourself, because we are nothing on this earth. You talk as if you own Ashanti region. Even the leaders over there can't say that, and you know what your position as a chairman doesn't give you the audacity to talk to GM like that. So be very careful. Well, yeah, that's from Doris from Fertilizer Teshi. Let's listen to Prof.
Thank you very much. I think this subject has really been flogged. It is rather, for me, unfortunate or rather exciting that today, instead of discussing other issues, we've devoted the whole week and this day to cap the week on this unfortunate incident at KNUST. And I think Comrade Wilson, our honorable lawmaker and Alhaji, had virtually exhausted what we need to discuss on this matter. And as perhaps one of the testers indicated, we are rational and I'm going to bring out certain other dimensions. I associate myself with all the good points that my colleagues, three other colleagues, had made. You know, somebody sent an advice to the chairman to me.
Yes.
We have a saying in Ghana that he layesami nagbo. Ordinarily, that there's just literally that there's sickness in bed. And then we die. And you know, the irony of our life is that we forget that there is an omnipotent being, Allah, God, who created us and set up order. And what we don't realize is that for all the variables that influence the outcome of any natural event, the greatest man on earth does not have control over the least of them. Because the one who created us knows even what will happen in the next second. And so when we say Hilayasami, it means that, look, you find somebody, God forbid for ourselves, the next time he's not dead, but he's bedridden. That is the end of you. I mean, our own cherished Prof. Mills, may his soul rest in peace. What did we hear? The sister even visited him on her way back to the hometown, had hardly got into Winneba, and they heard this news. Somebody that you visited and woke up and had gone through his routine, exercise, prayers. Here you are. And so anybody who wants to defy the laws of nature, he has an inalienable right to decide what to do, but let's leave it. You see, Ebi just in his humble self, he didn't tell us that he has great insight into the way tertiary institutions run, because he was chairman of council of the Ghana Institute of Journalism. So he knows what he's talking about, and what he said is apt. I have also served on some tertiary education councils. The students, as he said, are fully represented on council. That is when you call undergraduates, SRC. The Graduate Students Association, or the graduates, are also represented. You see? And if you take the various acts, typically like University of Ghana Act 806, it was Act 78 of 1961, and in 2010, it was repealed, and the new act came into being, Act 806. And the university even went further to say that the community, when we talk of the university, those who constitute the university will be the chancellor, the council chair, members of council, present, previous or former, students, employees, alumni, pensioners, that's former workers, and then other honorary degree holders. And went on to say that it is these people exclusively who have access to any university facility. You understand? So the stakeholders issue that we talk about is real. And so students are represented. And if you go through the various acts and the statutes therefrom, the Student Representative Council, their dues are part of the fee structure. They give it to them exclusively. Indeed, when you come to campus ABA and they reopen for the new academic year, or even now getting to the second semester, elections, posters that students put up, the funds that they inject into their elections, man, honorable, I don't think I've been through the constituency and I've seen your billboard. You cannot you dare. So students have some level of, and as I'm saying, policies or programs are initiated at council. The vice chancellor, as the head of management, having gone through the process, academic board committees, etc., will bring whatever plans or policies that he or she would like to initiate, and council will discuss. Students present, they are treated equally. Where allowances are given, they get their full share, just like what the vice chancellor or chairperson of council. There's no discrimination whatsoever. And so if I put all this in context and not ignoring or belittling some of the infractions and the concerns about allegations of caning, banning of jamborees and other things, then I mean that would be the extreme. And outside political undertones, we are yet to get the full implications or what really happened at KNUST. Because I happened to be in Kumasi and I drove through campus in July, and an old Katangese, that's a former member of the university hall, had taken the matter to court. And I think the court threw it off, that students have been admitted. Those the female who will be going to university hall in accordance with the policy to now make it mixed, had been issued letters, and so the case was not of any merit, it was thrown off. But you see, the joint delegation of members of University Hall and then Unity Hall paid the courtesy call on the president. I think 19th September or so, and brought the matter before, petitioned the president. Oh boys. And the president pledged, if I read that portion captured in Joy News, addressing a 7-member joint delegation of the University Hall Katanga and Unity Hall Conti at the Jubilee House when they paid the courtesy call on him to present their petition, President Akufo-Addo said he will, through the Minister of Education, initiate the process to engage the highest decision-making body of the university to deal decisively with the impasse between the parties. Authorities of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology at the beginning of the 2018-19 academic year decided to convert the hitherto male-only halls into mixed halls, much to the displeasure of the alumni, current students of the two halls. You understand? Comrade Wilson made a point that, indeed, and it's factual, that over 60% of students don't reside, they don't have access to the 6 halls. You understand? I was there in the 70s and we're in Republic Hall. If you look at the capacity, 198 main hall rooms and then 96 annexes. And with the decongestion, if you even account for 4 people in each room, less than 10,000 students are there. And these halls were put from 59 all through University Hall, Africa Hall at the late 63. And now you have hostels, areas like Ayija, Kentin, Krono, and Awumaso are all now hostels. And you come to University of Ghana, Commonwealth, Legon, Sabah, Akwafu, Volta. Since then, it's just in the early 2000s that we put up what they call the Nimboy Complex, Liman Hall all through, and they take over 7,000, more than even the main hall. And so the question is that alumni of University of Science, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, UCC, Legon, etc., they have a representation also on council. So, old boys of a hall virtually now dabbling in the management, and the president received their petition. We are throwing these bare issues for people to think through. Now, then on the issue that has happened, KNUST has an Act 80 of 1961. I let this be repealed. I don't know the new one, but of course it wouldn't negate. But if you relate it to the other universities, as the public was Legon or UG and Cape Coast, these older, bigger universities, they have chancellors. And let me read the University of Ghana one, which will not be a variance with KNUST. There shall be a chancellor of the university who shall be elected by an electoral college made up of equal number of total blah blah. In accordance with Section 6 of the Act, the chancellor shall be the head of the university and shall take precedence over all other officers of the university. If he's present at council, he's the chairperson. If he's present at academic board, he's the chairperson. In fact, he confers degrees at congregation. And why? Look at the irony of it. Until 1992, when the constitution was promulgated, it was the head of state. And we, academic freedom, etc., and the rather revolutionary, pardon me, Buga Buga regime said, take it. You say academic freedom, take it. And that's how chancellors were appointed. So the head of state now has nothing. The only influence, because it is a state institution, is the chairperson of council, who is even by order under the chancellor. So, and 4 others or 3 others, depending on the university. So, as ABA rightly indicated, this action at KNUST, has their law been set aside? And does the government have a right to set laws aside? Because there's no place at all. Is it the advice of the Regional Security Council that says that I'll use our law and that law is superior to another act of parliament? Lawmaker, tell us. You understand? And so, as he rightly said, if the chairperson that you appointed with the 4 others, you think they didn't act rightly, you can dissolve and set up another one immediately. Because you cannot replace or force SRC to replace the president. So is Grasak, so is TEU, so is convocation representation, so alumni. So out of the 18 or 19 membership, the only you can immediately dissolve and reconstitute the council and then charge them. That is all that you can do. And it's the council that appointed the vice chancellor. I think this vice chancellor was appointed just 2017. And the vice chancellor can be removed on act of wrongdoing. The procedures are there. You understand? So lawyers, and MPP doesn't lack lawyers with astute lawyers. Are they advising or they are not? Are they politically mischievous or they are politically naive? Because my fellow academics, some of them politically, they don't appreciate the way politics, technically they may have the knowledge. Because currently, I know many academics are sympathetic to this government. There are top rank academics who are on government advisory board. Are they advising? That's why the issue about my friend Professor Yanka comes in. Because Professor Yanka is an experienced university administrator. He left as pro-vice chancellor for over 5 years or so, and then went to Central University to become a vice chancellor until he was appointed last year as Minister for Education in charge of tertiary. So who is not listening? Is it our president? Or, as he indicated, in the case of a matter that he said he was ill-advised? Because these are worrying signs. And Alhaji, I keep on asking this question. And lawmaker, is this constitution born out of the revolution correct? Or the practitioners are not correct? Or the constitution is not correct and the practitioners are correct? Or both of them? Because what is happening is amazing. You take the case of Winneba. Is it purely because the previous regime asked the council to continue? So all actions taken were negated by the fact that they were not reconstituted and properly sworn in. And now you have a vice chancellor removed and another one has been appointed. Did the appointment go through the due process that council will set up a membership, a committee chaired by a member of council, and then you advertise, you receive applications, you process the applications, and then recommendations are made to council for council to appoint one? What happened? And so on this KNUST issue, if you read the statutes or the laws of all these top universities, you find out there is a residence board. And the residence board has the pro-vice chancellor as chairperson. And the students are represented, even at JCR level. That is where they take decisions on fees that have to be charged. The students, the SRC dues, they incorporate the dues in the main fees and then separate it for them. And often our students will not argue on that anyway. But to increase fees or not, the students will always tell you, don't go beyond 10%. No, my constituents will not agree. So students have a say. Then there is a provision of dean of students. And as an experienced administrator once told me, he said the issue about dean of students emanated from Legon during the early years of the 60s, when there were routes, and at that time, older people, and there were less than even 500 people in the whole university. And to arrest some of the dissents and other things, a professor from Oxford, who was then working in the university, said, look, what we often do is to appoint somebody of about the age, just like a relatively older senior brother, not too old, who will relate to the students. And so you call that fellow dean of students. And that practice has continued. Yeah. You understand? So he's not a dean of an academic unit, but just a dean of students, like a liaison. Right. You see? So when you have all these arrangements, how did this thing happen? We are yet to know.
No dialogue.
You see? Were the students consulted? And all the students are now having a way, and there's a political undertone. So you see all of it. The students, there was a publication yesterday, they said they won 4 points. They are receiving the decision. They now have exclusive use to their their fee component of the main fees, and many things. So are we now making the students to have a field day? And then look at that committee, the pro vice chancellor. If you look through, it's not a substantive member. The pro vice chancellor, like the registrar who is secretary to council, the finance director or finance officer or the librarian, they just sit in because they are part of management. Is the only management member is the vice chancellor, who is a substantive member of council. So the pro vice chancellor, that lady, is not a substantive member of council. So when you constitute a the interim committee, how come the pro vice chancellor is in there and the vice chancellor is not in? And one of the TOR for the new interim council is to decide the fate of the vice chancellor. And that interim committee itself, there's no room in what do you call it, in the act. So have we set the act aside? And if you appreciate all this, then you understand where UTAG might have gone against the labor law, but the GAWA and UTAG, what they are doing is to defend the rule of law. Look, 2013 or 2012, when University of Ghana decided to build a security gate at the main Okponglo entrance and block traffic, Bevlo Lati, the National Security Advisor or Coordinator, wrote a letter when he got wind of the jam. And he said he brought the letter to the university and went to the Vice Chancellor's office. He didn't meet him, so he left the letter. He made 2 follow-ups. Nobody bothered him until at dawn they came and broke down. I mean, come and hear pronouncements from the university community and in the intranet. Resentment, some harsh statements. So when this thing started, I would say, hey, what mute silence? But then my concerns were abated when UTAG issued that statement. It is purely for the defense of rule of law. And I believe that if the National Security or rather the Regional Security Council advise for this action to be taken, then I think government must review it immediately, because it has bizarre consequences. It will have bizarre consequences, and I don't think we need to do that. You understand? Look, some people, UTAG even indicated, look, KNUST UTAG, that you have grievance resolution mechanisms in their statutes. And if you take a cue from the University of Ghana's Statute 43 has a rules of discipline, and then dispute settlement Statute 44, and it is like to avoid even going to court. Normally you go to court and matters are never resolved. One will win, one will lose. But if the law is to bring social harmony, then you realize that's why the alternative dispute mechanism is now becoming a topical issue and the preferred option. Yeah. In the University of Ghana statutes, drawn from Section 32 of their Act, the chairperson is a top judge of the Superior Court. It's exclusive to chair. Then 2 lawyers of not less than 10 years standing are members, and then 2 other high-profile people. And when the matter of act of indiscipline is brought against you, you can even bring your lawyer. Yeah. And you can even petition counsel. That's how the internal dispute resolution mechanism has been factored into the Act. And KNUST is not exception. And so this matter, and then above all, as he indicated, Asante Hene Otunfuo is the chancellor, and he is the titular head of KNUST. Asante Hene resolving the Dagbon issue, is this a matter he cannot resolve? This is chicken soup, sorry to say. This is a small matter. But the way we see things, it's like he was even sidestepped. Because he is a head of KNUST. And this matter is before him, or must be before him. You understand? Now, be that as it may, we flog this matter, but there are certain personal issues that I would like to bring. And yesterday, when I had a call and I made my contribution, my colleague academics themselves must relook the new governance system that they've evolved. And sadly to say, we were 6.3 million in 1960. Today, 27 or 30, we don't know. And the universities have remained the same. And this 21st century moving on is a century or era of brain power. That's a brain power. How come, as I keep saying, Alhaji, this pen you see, if you go to Okanshi, is 50 pesos, produced from China, gone through Tema Harbor with GRA collecting its fair share, that will be hyped at budget presentation. Can we produce this pen at 50 pesos in Ghana? Yeah. Have we fashioned out our production system, input cost, that we can turn out this pen? And look at over 5 million children in school. And me, I can't even keep a pen, not recklessly, but somehow I may forget this pen. So there's ready market. Are we producing pen? And so the universities where we train our brains have become centers of importance in moving this country forward. We have a fixed landmass if we are not even degrading it. And given the rising population, people are living where they are living longer. The challenge on the universities to really lead us in terms of producing the brains that can bring about any transformation is really great. But sadly to say, the universities have become centers of everybody fighting, jostling to go into position of management. So University of Ghana, KNUST, UCC, and the younger ones are following. Huge administrative machine. And we know administrators are purely there to provide administration so that we work. But sadly, because you've created that huge governance system, you have colleague lecturers who must occupy those positions. So a head of department that should be like the ultimate, because we are manufacturers. We are manufacturing human brains. And so the production floor is a department. So if somebody rises to become head of department, that is the ultimate, like the factory manager. Today, there are deans who are full-time, provosts who are full-time, pro-vice chancellors who are full-time, the vice chancellor who is one and only. It could come amongst us or from elsewhere. In the US, the president can come from anywhere, industry, 5 years, 10 years, drive the university and move off. That's right. And so academic units are few. The university I attended in Canada, the University of Saskatchewan, there are 5 colleges, and they are headed by deans. The dean falls flat to the department, and in the department, you have the old, experienced professors as head of department, and even there is a coordinator. His astuteness or his greatness is that he has his team of graduate students, visiting scientists or researchers, working in his lab, coming in and moving out, and one of them. So you're talking about only 5 deans. 5 deans. And then maybe 3 or 4 vice presidents. So the older ones, they go there and they retire off. But you have a situation where you created so many positions, and young guys move from head of department. Next time he's a senior tutor, he's a hall master. He's either a dean or he's a provost. For 10, 15 years, he's in management. And meanwhile, you are an academic. And it's against the background that you have a very enhanced administration. The registry is now enhanced with directorates. So that is why they are there. Let them play their role and let the academics create fewer positions so the academics will deliver in departments. Because after all, it's programs and people you turn out. And this whole matter that, look at it, a university hall with less than 1,000 students. Against 45,000 students, 60% of them are outside the university. Look at what has been created. With international students who are here and they have to go back. Some are on exchange program and they have to get their credits and move off. Less than 1,000 students, one hall out of 6. And now with hostels, they become inconsequential. So alumni who were former Katangis now feel they have a stake. They have to go and petition president. And you run a whole system where there must be a hall master who is an academic. There must be a senior tutor who is already saddled with teaching and research. Some even struggling. Then tutorial system where tutors with about 40 students under them collecting allowances. You understand? So some of these legacies from the colonial system cannot have a place. So the university that should be a center of excellence and we should be striving to be a well-learning center, at the same time you have distractions with lures of attractive positions, collecting allowances, and resources are limited. So there are many aspects of these issues that we, the academics ourselves, we have to look up and say that, if now we have a vice chancellor, councils are playing roles because they they play a role in running the institution. Should we get to this point? And by the way, the interim councils don't run day to day. But when you look at the mandate, they say they should run. Councils don't run the university. It is management. They are there to give direction and bless whatever is happening. And like these matters, the vice chancellor will come like, look, I've got to a position where things are tight. What do we do? That's a body that holds the institution in trust of the public. You understand? And so it is for me, I said that it's a God-sent opportunity. Unfortunate as the issue had been, victims, we commiserate with them, we sympathize with them. Those who have lost property, I believe we can get to the bottom of the matter and address the matter very well. But this brings up an opportunity for us to really look the way our universities are running and focus on what our core mandate is. That for me is a crucial thing. And we only hope that government is listening and government will address this matter within the terms of the law. And KNUST has its laws. All other universities have their laws. Once you've not set the law aside, let the law prevail. And in this matter, the chancellor can easily resolve it without setting up. If you think the council is not good, reconstitute it. It's not an interim council. Reconstitute the council. Your 4 nominees, and some of them are even there. Get the chairperson and the 4 other nominees, and then you can constitute it today and swear them in tomorrow. Why? The minister can do so. The minister can go to Kumasi and swear in a new council. And the law is there, so they take office immediately and hear the matter and resolve the matter. If the vice chancellor has done anything contrary to the law, they can easily set up a committee. The the way the vice chancellor can be removed is subject to disciplinary action. It is in the law. So it's not somebody somebody doesn't have authority to go and sit on radio and start making preempt actions that to be taken, that the vice chancellor is gone forever. If you do so, then you are setting a very bad precedent. But I hope Allah in His wisdom will not allow things to get to this extent. And this matter by next week should be completed so that we discuss other crucial issues. For me, that is what is important. Thank you.
I said that when the landlord is there to speak eloquently, story of his house, you don't have the caretaker. So Prof. This has made it abundantly clear that they are now even usurping the functions of management.
Yes.
The IMC and the board is the council is supposed to deal with policy. Running the day-to-day is the exclusive preserve of management. So how are you going to bring in an IMC serving as a council to do the work of management? You see, that's why I said earlier on, I'm being restrained, because there are certain words we could have used to describe the situation.
Well, so you heard Professor Anino, the owner, who is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana.
Totally illegal.
And well, let's just read a couple of your messages before we bring the discussion to a close on our very first topic, happenings at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
I beg you.
Okay.
I'm just reading something, and from the UST news on this thing. They are indicating, for instance, that included in the council, in the IMC, is a certain Professor Ejakwa. They said that he's the one who contested Professor, the current VC, Dansu. He contested Professor Dansu for the position of the VC. Didn't get it, and is an avowed opponent of the decision who has been included in the council. Has been a vocal critic of the vice chancellor. Just give me something on it.
Yeah. This goes to
the agenda.
It's
an agenda.
Yes.
To uproot
This
him.
is all a ruse to get rid of Professor Danso. That's all it is.
Okay, so
Politics.
Just a couple of the messages on Facebook. Albert Bafo says, enjoying my money. And Patrick Senyo Ajadu says, well, what a brilliant contribution. We support you, brother. You speak brilliantly with no biases. And he again says, how in the world does the president appoint everyone and even DCs? Francis Ahovi says, good morning, Senator. Greetings to Honorable Alhaji. Let's call a spade a spade. Actions of the MPP government towards our institutions, including education, is becoming uncalled for. I agree with Prof to some extent, because MPP always take decisions in haste without thinking through thoroughly, hence heaping more demerits on the citizens than merits. One can mention free senior high school without policy, College of Education to 4 years without curriculum. Since they claim to have men, they should completely deliver. We are getting tired. Godwin Alhaji says, why are you worried about what is going on at NUST? I'm sorry to sound this way. Have you so soon forgotten the attacking the pillars of governance and what happened at the EC, University of Education, Winneba, GFA, and now NUST? You should rather be concerned about which institution is next. When politicians connive with students and management to execute their plans, what we are seeing all over and turned around to be seen as wanting to solve them, the professors cannot read through to know that they will be at the receiving end after all. Why do you sympathize with them? This one from Ibrahim Chimba says, this Nanado government is a serious lawless government, just doing things anyhow. Yet they claim they are the apostles of law. God have mercy. And Patrick Senyo Ajadu again comes says, when you come to the USA government, government never ever utilize student leadership to gain power, as we do in Ghana. Governments allow universities to run their businesses free of any administrative influence. All governments have used student unions as their mouthpiece. No wonder we have such corruption in our nation, because we have corrupted our future leaders and never even take our time to groom them to acquire the right skills to lead our nation. All governments should stay away from our schools. And Kamal Dokurugu Ibrahim says, Hi, Senator. The incident of Nost is disgraceful to say the least. However, it does expose the Ghanaian culture towards those we are older than in our societies. This culture isn't going to change overnight. What we need is a conscious effort to encourage students' participation right from our nurseries all through to the universities. The old-age adage that children are seen but not heard has long changed. Article 12 of the UNCRC flags participation as a fundamental human right of those we even consider children. Our universities must do better. We have no excuse for the occurrence and recurrence of these shameful acts. And finally, Safiano Abdullahi says, it's so unfortunate that our tertiary institutions will be facing this kind of challenges. But in every human institution, such things are bound to happen. So we just need to take good measures to avoid such things from occurring in the near future. The NPP government, as we all know, has a diabolical agenda of doing everything within their powers to push the Vice Chancellor. It's a calculated attempt, but hey, I want to assure Nanado and his mafias that since the tail of the cow did not stay forever on it, so wouldn't it stay in the hand of the president. Their days are numbered, and whether they like it or yes, they will be in opposition come 2021, inshallah. I'm listening to you and your panel right from China, Beijing. Keep the good work up. So that ends the discussion on our very first topic. Before we move on to the next one, you can enjoy an amazing 30% on any of the following products when you buy from our online phone and accessories, tablet, flash screen, TVs, laptop, printers, among others. Simply download the Franco Trading app from your Google Play Store. Place your order and phone will be delivered right at your doorstep. For those who have challenges with the Franco app, please uninstall and download again. Visit francotrading.com/francophones.com. Branches at Abraka opposite Roxy Cinema bus stop, Accra UTC roundabout behind the Despite Building, La Paz near New Boy Junction, opposite Prudential Bank, Circle close to Odorais, also opposite EcoBank, Gosford Street, Tema opposite Water West Community 1, Madina Old Road opposite HFC Bank, Hacho opposite Hacho Station, Koforidua on the All Nations University College Road, Ho Market Road opposite Amigashi Building, and Kaswa opposite the Kaswa Polyclinic. You can call 0302-225-651, 0546-133-188. Franco Trading phone Papefie. Our next topic has to do with the National Democratic Congress. Today they are electing their national youth and women organizers ahead of the 2020 elections. And the main congress is on November 17, but we are discussing that next. And let me start with Alhaji Haruna Rashid this time around.
Yes. Well, I think it's a great thing that we've come to an aspect of the national offices that, to me, are, the window into the future, both in terms of numbers and in terms of energy. You have the youth, and then you have the women. As we all know, in terms of population, the women make up about 52% of the population, and then you have the youth who are energetic, are very enthusiastic. And before I go too far, let me just say that I wish each and every one of the contestants the very best of luck. And my piece of advice to the delegates who will be making the selections, and as we speak now, they are out there in the central region, in Gomoa, getting ready, if they have not started already, is make a conscious decision. Look and think about whoever that you select. Make sure that your selection is somebody that you really truly believe that they can deliver. They can deliver in terms of their ability to organize, their ability to bring people on board, the ability for us to really put our heads together. Because right now, what we need more than anything is unity, coming together, and our ability to dialogue and find common ground so we can work together to come back to power, and more than anything else, throw this incompetent Nana Akufo-Addo government out of power. But we cannot do so just out of wish. We cannot do so if we let ourselves be influenced by material things. We cannot do so by letting ourselves be influenced by whatever favors, cash or otherwise. It's a reality that these things are here to stay. They are with us. So let's just make sure that you look at the competence of the person, how dedicated they are. Some of these people that are running have already really shown they have a track record. They have shown their ability to lead. That is the key thing that we're looking at. Leadership. Trustworthy leadership. Someone who says that I am going to do this and they are able to deliver what they said they're going to do. Not just someone because of the way they look, because of what region they come from, because of the kind of, friendship that you have with the person. What you really have to step back and ask yourself is that, can this person be able to deliver and do the work, both in terms of organizational skills and in terms of their people skills? Because this whole business of politics is really about relationships, how you relate to other people, how you are able to work in a team. No one person can deliver. So don't just, select a national women's organizer, but think about who is she going to be able to work with as her deputy national women's organizer. It is extremely important. And then there will come a time when they have to coordinate with the youth organizer. Are they going to be able to work in a team effort to raise us all up? Because bottom line is, I think it was Bob Marley that said that when it rains, it does not pour on one man's house. It does not pour on one man's house, as it is right now. We are feeling the pain. All those who, for whatever reason, did not do what they were supposed to do, whether it is in the way of coordinating, in the way of making sure that the messages are sent out, or it's in the way of making sure that the logistics reach where they were supposed to. Now, I believe within the past 20 months, are beginning to see the folly in the decisions that they made. And that is why we are where we are right now. Okay, so I think this is not something that, we're going to talk over a long period of time. Bottom line is, let's make a conscious decision and then be able to live with yourself that I looked at this person, I have looked at him from all angles. Their leadership ability, their competence, their organizational skills, their ability to speak, to really be persuasive, to talk to people, their ability to relate to people, their ability, more than anything else, for them to work in an organization. See, the U.S. Army has this motto that goes like this: lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. You lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. So that person that you are going to vote for as the national women's organizer, the deputy national women's organizer, the youth organizer, the deputy youth organizer, that person has to be able to lead. That person has to be able to follow, because in a lot of cases, when you are a leader, it's not always that you're going to lead. There will come a time when someone has more competence and understanding of a certain aspect of things that you have to follow them. So that person has to be able to lead, follow, or just get out of the way completely. So this, for me, of course I have my choices. I'm not going to sit here and, tell you who my choices are. Okay? But bottom line is, we need people who will be able to stand up and speak, who will be able to stand up and advocate the positions, the social democratic principles that we all adhere to. And also organize. So my, piece of advice is to the delegates. Really go back into your conscience. Think about what it is that the selection that you're going to make. Do not be influenced by money. I mean, it's kind of difficult to say not to be influenced by money, given the kind of hardships that the conditions that we're in right now. And then people would tell you that this is the Akoko season. By all means, but do the very best that you can, knowing that what you do today would determine in one way or another whether the NDC party, not just the women's wing or the youth wing, is effective in coming back to power. Do not take this lightly. The decision that you make, that one person that you vote for, the two people that you vote for, have a very, very important impact in what they're going to do in making sure that NDC comes back to power. And we need to come back to power. We need to take this MPP government out of power, because they've had 20 months. And I can tell you, we cannot see it. 22 months, right? 22 months. The things that they have been able to do so far, leaves a lot to be desired. So again, delegates who are listening, I plead to you, make your decisions based on merit. Let competence guide you. Let your conscience guide you, and do the right thing, because you're doing the right thing today is going to go in a long way in making sure that NDC comes to power. Thank you.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes, Senator. I will first want to commend the NDC as opposition colleagues, even though we are senior in opposition. So myself, Honorable ABA, and then Alhaji. I'm your most senior in opposition. I want to commend them for how far they've come with their reorganization. They started with the constituency, then to the region, and now they've got into the national. And I'm sure today begins the national. After today, probably in some weeks to come, they will have the other national executives. Then they will climax it with the flag bearership. I haven't had the opportunity to commend Radio Good, particularly Patrick and his team, when they brought in the regional elections. The way they covered it was so marvelous. And I'm particularly interested in the NDC reformation, because I have said that the 2020 election, among all the opposition parties, our focus and aim should be synchronized. It should just be one. And that focus should be to ensure that there's a change of government coming 2020. And it is incumbent on us as opposition parties to do everything legally within our means to ensure that. And we are not just doing it for the fun of it, but we are doing it just for the sake of saving the future and saving the soul and saving the presence of our motherland from the hands of these terrible administrators being led by His Excellency Akufo-Addo. The 2020 election, I keep hammering on it. That is an election that is between lies and truth. The 2016 election, the NPP lied their way into office by promising things that are not practicable and not achievable. And so they are struggling simply because they won the election based on lies. Now, as we go into the 2020 election, it is for us, the opposition parties, to present to the electorate the lies that they presented for which they won election and the truth that we are willing to present to them as it is, And so for us to be able to achieve this in 2020, key will be the leaders, the people that we elect to lead us. And so as the NDC has started, and I'm very confident very soon, probably beginning of next year, PNC will also be starting its own. Delegates are supposed to realize that they are voting, and their votes that their voting that they are having today has a direct effect on what the 2020 outcome will be like. And so I will encourage the NDC as they go into this election today. I'm sure, I don't know whether voting has even started.
No, not yet.
Then I'm sure some may be listening to us and they want to take a clue from what we are saying. That they should be mindful of the fact that anyone they are voting for should be someone who is competent enough to lead. Now, in all our political activities, key groupings have to do with the women and the youth. They are very key because they constitute, particularly the youth, they constitute the majority of our electorates. And so as they go in to vote for a leader, a youth leader, they should ensure that they are voting for someone who has got the credibility. Because if you are a leader and you don't have the credibility, it will be difficult for you to convince anyone to follow you. Two, they should vote for someone who really appreciates and understands structures and how organization works. I think so far, I may stand to be corrected, but I think it is with the youth front, with the NDC, it is one guy called Pablo and the other guy called Brojajemfi.
And Wanda
Madilo.
Oh, there's a third person.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wanda
All right.
Wanda was initially disqualified.
Okay.
Brought back.
So
yes.
they should really assess these individuals, those voting, and then give their votes and their mandate to one of them that would be very, very competent to do it. Now, with regards to the women, and then they also have their deputies, right? They should do same. Now, the deputies that they are voting for, they should also ensure that whoever they vote for as the substantive, it's someone that can work very well with the deputy.
Teamwork. Yes.
If there's disunity among the leadership, it will be very difficult for them to rally anyone around them. And so they are not just voting for the substantive leader, but they should ensure that whoever they vote for as a deputy is someone that can, they can work hand in hand. Right. And the same advice goes to the women's front. With the women's front, strangely, it is only one name I'm hearing. Maybe because I'm not so. No. What's the name? Hannah Bisiu.
Haja Zainab is there.
Yes, the incumbent is also
is there.
Oh,
Very,
okay.
very strong.
Okay,
Yes.
so there are two.
No,
they are
four.
not in there.
Oh, they are more than
They
that.
are four.
Okay.
They are four,
So well, then that is strange because it is only BCU's name I keep hearing. So I thought she was the only one going.
Yeah.
Okay, very well. So the same advice goes to them as they vote for the women. They should ensure that they are voting for someone who is a practical person, someone who is a grassroots person. Organization is not the same as secretaryship. Secretaryship, you can sit in the office and be doing the paperwork. But to be the organizer, you must be seen on the field, moving things around. And so they should vote for someone who can do that kind of work. And by extension, vote for a deputy that can also work with that person. It is very, very important. But you see, in all this, for me, the most important of them all, which I'm sure when the time is due, I'll get opportunity to discuss, has to do with the flag bearership. For me, that's the most important of it all, because it is clear among all the opposition parties as we have it now, the party that has got the structures stronger to be able to form the next government among all the opposition parties is the NDC. You understand? There's no two ways about that. And so whatever happens in the end, if indeed all the opposition parties or we the opposition parties are bent on ensuring that there's a change of government, then whatever happens in the NDC should be of so much interest to all of us. Because if the NDC messes up, it breaks down the opportunity for us to form the next government or to move on to ensure that there's a change of government. But as I said, I'm sure when the time is due for us to discuss the flag bearership, because I still can't get it. Uncle, I can't get it that you people can have over 10, 15 individuals wanting to be a flag bearer.
We have 11.
11.
What is the, sorry, what is the...
That is just a statement. You cannot judge that until we get to a point where the race is formally opened, forms are sold. Even people can go and pick the form. But returning the form, and then not even return, you can even return the form, and when you are vetted and you are found not to have met the criteria, you'll be disqualified. So we can only talk about having how many contenders for the flag bearer when you have gone through all those processes and you have now been.
But seriously,
but after saying anybody can come out.
But I'm even saying that seriously. Why would we want to create an impression that we have a divided front instead of us going into the election as a unified, united front? Why can't we all share that? Why you think when the NPP 2007, when they had about 17 candidates, you think it didn't affect their fortune? 2016, you think a lot of them didn't have the ambition? But because they wanted to win power by all means, most of them or all of them shielded their ambitions and decided to rally around one person. And that is how come they were able to win the election. Okay. So we should be, but as I said, I'm very sure we will have the opportunity to discuss, the flag bearership. And there's a lot of things that needs to be told to the public,
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. Before I bring in Alhaji, just one quick message from Patrick Senyo Ajadu. He says that exactly, we in the NDC has a lot to do. We have to live up to expectations and not allow ourselves to be beaten by our own principles. Our dear party was formed certain principles, probity, and accountability. Our party was formed on principles of power to the people. In the past 2 years, we have not listened to our followers and took them for granted, and we have paid for it dearly. We ask you to vote on our behalf and trust that you will do the right thing. Alhaji Honorable.
Okay. Thank you very much. I start on this premise that when we are going into any fight or any endeavor, it's a function of how much the spirit of that fight is in you. So it is, as our people say, it is not the size of the man in the fight that matters. It's the size of the fight in the man.
That's right.
In the fight. I'll say that again. It is not the size of the man in the fight that matters. It's the size of the fight in the man in the fight that matters. So the size of the fight for the NDC to return is what I'm talking about. And to a very large extent, I can say without any out of contradiction that the signs of the fight are clear. They are coming up and growing. And that is what I want us all as NDC members, and perhaps my brother Wilson, Comrade Wilson, and others in the other opposition to join us. Not too long ago, I had one opposition member who joined the MPP in 2016 crying very loudly that his businesses have been collapsed as a result of the vindictive actions of this government. You see, there's premise on the clarion call by Ghanaians today that they want the NDC back. You see, I said earlier on that it is comparison that disgraces a donkey. When somebody has no record and he gives you hope, all that he clings to is to sell to you hope. I'm in government, and I tell you that this is what we have done to do there. Somebody comes and say, oh man, when I come, I will make this country flow of milk and honey. Okay? The money is there. It is incompetent. I will make this country so sweet for you that you don't even need to work hard to get money into your pocket. I give you all the promises, the hopes that are there. Many of whom I know that I cannot even fulfill. Okay? So you invariably, many people will fall for it. I'm happy today. And I've always said that Allah Almighty in his infinite wisdom has never made a mistake. If the opportunity was never given to Nana Akufo-Addo and the MPP to come to power today, we will not see my brother, for want of a better term. I have never seen a divisive, nepotistic, dictatorial, deceitful, corruption-ridden, over-bloated, super incompetent government like this. Never. The evidence is there. In less than two years, the level of hardship this government has inflicted on the good people of this country is unprecedented. Even some of their own pastors are now owning up and say that life under these difficulties are unprecedented. Some of their church supporters today go to Abosokai. They say they contributed 2.5 billion for Nanado. And I'm sure when we come to the last topic, some of these issues will come. So what that tells you, and I've said that, you see, sometimes you don't realize the importance of your buttocks until there's a boil on it. You see, you don't appreciate it. When you come and the chair is there, you sit anyhow, I lie. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But let there be a boil on your buttocks. When you come, you calculate the angle at which you sit. And it will skew your posture. You see? So many people did not realize or took it for granted. Some of those things. Today, like I said, you go to look at our senior high school system now today. When President Mama was building E-blocks and boosting up the infrastructure in second cycle and tertiary institutions. They said, why are we going to eat schools or eat E-blocks? Today, look at the importance. But for even some of the E-blocks President Mahama built and the infrastructure that you can see now our senior high school, they say they have done free HSS for first and second years. But now the system has been reduced to traffic light, yellow, red, and green. When they show you red, you go home and sit down. If it is green, go to school. Then when they show yellow, those in the house start coming to school. Those who are in the school start going home. You see? So for me, a lot of work has been done for us by the MPP. And sometimes you are left to know that they are in a hurry to leave power. But like the Dagombe say, if they are bathing your back, also wash your front. So the washing of our front has to do with us as a political party to convince, because a lot of the work is there. In 2020, the MPP will have Nanado will have a record. He can no longer come and live on hope. Try me and see. This time the try me and see will no longer work. Because they've given you the mandate. It's not about timing. It is going to be the record. And all of us know that when you are in government, the first 2 years are your best years. Your best years are the first 2 years. To give a clear demonstration to the electorate that you are living up to the promises and the good things that you said you will do for them when you come to power, when they give you the mandate. Now, brother, look at we are now in 2 months' time, we would have reached the 2 years threshold. You ask yourself, just looking around, look at the lives of the people. You go everywhere, everybody is crying in Ghana that life is really extremely hard. People are crying all over the place. Even those who are riding on the back of the elephant, they are feeling the heat on the ground. What about those who are barefooted walking in the sand? If you are flat on your back and you can't see God, what about those face down? So a lot of the job that they are doing, they are putting the NDC in good stead for Ghanaians to have a better appreciation of what the NDC government did. So like I said, the onus is on us as a political party to wash our front, to solidify our front, to do the very things. And happily, we started from the branches. We started the reorganization from the branches. Branch elections were successfully conducted. I did mine in my constituency. In fact, the branch elections in my constituency was like a general election. I can tell you that in some of my police stations, people lined up and voted from morning up to evening. You can't believe it. In my constituency in Sanargo, the enthusiasm was very high at the branch level. People came out to vote. So the same thing at the constituency elections, and then also at the regional elections. And now we are on the first stage of the national elections, which involves the election of the women and then the youth wings. Undoubtedly, these are very, very, very important positions, given the fact that, as has been said by my colleagues before me, that the bulk of the people are women and youth. If you put the women and youth together, they are in about more than 70 to 80% of the party membership. And so that is a huge chunk. And it is important that we elect people with proven track record. And like I said, I would want to see in this election, for those who are going for women, and that fight that I talk about, the person who should be elected the youth organizer must have enormous fight in his belly. He must have enormous fight to want the NDC to win power in 2020 elections. So I'm not interested in how tall and huge that person is, but the size of the fight in that person is what matters. The size of the fight in the women organizer to mobilize women to come out massively and endorse whoever the NDC will pick as the presidential candidate, our flag bearer, for the 2020 elections. That for me is the first criteria. How much of that fight is in that person? And it should be demonstrable by what the person has already done, is doing. I would also want to see that the next person who is elected, the youth organizer, as well as the deputies, the women organizer and her deputies, must be an action-oriented person or persons. Not armchair youth organizer or deputies who sit in the office and issue directives. The youth organizer must be on the field. The deputy youth organizers must be on the field. They must interact with the grassroots. There must be people who feel and eat the grassroots, who have the sentiments of the grassroots, because they have lived their experience, they have worked with them, and they are on the field with them. Very, very important. That is where you can win the confidence of the people and bring them on board to endorse the agenda of the party in the run-up to the 2020 elections. You must also be fearless and uncompromising. There are all sorts of minefields on the political landscape. And so you need a very dedicated and committed person at the leadership to be able to not only withstand all those challenges, but to, as it were, lead in the prosecution to win more votes for the party. So fearlessness is one of the very important cardinal principles. Of course, you have other attributes like humility and accommodating, sharing. That a youth organizer who goes onto the field, the little he has, he sits down, buys something, and together with other youth, they sit down, they eat together, they fraternize, and you see that he's a man of the people. He fraternizes with the people. That is the kind of leadership that we want. So for me, it is not about the names of the people who are running for the destiny. I am indifferent. I want to say that whoever exudes the quality of this and the delegates believe that these are the people who exude those qualities, they must look for them and vote for them. I do not want to sit here like Alhaji said here to as it were pick and choose and do a campaign for somebody. I believe that all those who have put themselves up have some very positive traits and contributions to make to our party. The assessment of the delegates must be based on the objective criteria, including some of the things that we have mentioned here, including the size of their determination to go to the field and work for the NDC to win in 2020. Those are the people we are looking for, not those who come with the youth title of women organizer or deputy women's organizer or youth organizer or deputy youth organizer. And he's severing the title but not the work. We are not interested in conferring titles on you. It's work. The output is what the good people of this country, and the good people of this country are looking for the NDC to come back. I remember in some parts of the northern region when President Mahama came for his campaign, there were people who came out with lanterns in broad daylight. And you know when somebody is looking for you with a lantern in broad daylight, you know what that means? Because they have been so badly disappointed by this hopelessly uninspiring government. A government that doesn't provide hope. Every day, matters are getting worse and worse. And so they are looking up to the NDC now. Come and pay, as I've said. And so I want to wish all the contestants for all the various positions well. And to our delegates, that they should be motivated and anchored on the selection of candidates who in their true belief and in their true character as NDC members are choosing them because they believe they are the people who can deliver. Not unlike in other situations where they will be compromised by monies and others or something that has been given to people. I want to believe that the NDC at our congresses, we have always made the right decisions to choose people who matter for the occasion. Yes. This is the most crucial, perhaps one of the most crucial elections we have to fight in 2020. Against not just a failing, divisive, and vindictive government, but the people who will do everything to attempt to compromise the integrity of the elections. We have to do everything possible, right from the polling station, to ensure that this is one election we must police like never before. This particular election, because you know why? Among others, that if to rain, you see it in the sky. When they started to remove the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and the other deputies, and beginning to do certain things in an attempt to find ways of tinkering with the integrity of the elections, we must, as a political party, put in place executives who will lead us in that charge, so that we will come out more energized than ever before, to make sure that we police every police station with maximum vigilance and a machinery for collating and presenting our results, so that at the end of the day, whatever mistakes that we made in 2016 that led to our loss will not only be corrected, but would have been so properly rectified that the NDC will stake a legitimate and proper claim to power come the December elections. I have no doubt, inshallah, that this will be achieved at our Congress. Inshallah. And the NDC would have served notice to the rest of Ghanaians that, yes, we are ready and back to come back to power, to rescue them from this nepotistic, divisive, super incompetent, corruption-ridden over-bloated Obolo government.
Thank you very much, Honorable. And let's move to
Okay.
Professor
Our
Nino
time
Adona.
is, well, you know, at congresses or conferences, I think this is rightly a conference, you have only two positions that will be contested or delegates will vote for. I think the National Women Organizer and then what else? The National Youth Organizer.
Youth Organizer and their deputies.
And their deputies. How many deputies?
Well, I think two each.
Two each. So in all, we'll have 6 elected officers.
Yes.
Obviously, in all contests where you have many contestants, there will be more losers than winners. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it is one family. And it's just a process that we've given to ourselves by our respective constitution that to elect somebody to hold national office for a period of time, you have to go through this process. So far, listening to Radio Gold and other publications, reading other publications, I've not had any cause to doubt that there is harmony. Yeah. Though you have contests, but there is harmony. And you indicated you will be covering the event, but so far I don't think there had been anything untoward. And we only pray that we conduct affairs and that those who will lose should be graceful and the winners must be gracious so that they move on, because a greater fight will be 2020. And as you know, the 2020 elections will definitely be a keenly contested election. Issues, we always say we just come and throw propaganda, but for goodness or God's sake, you realize people are becoming conscious. Mm-hmm. And it's getting to the stage where, like the advanced democracies, the demands that are placed on governments are such that you just can't come and lie your way into power. You see, it might be easier winning, but how to govern. And definitely, people will be asking questions when it comes to 2020. So the greater fight is reaching out to the electorate. And what we are doing, or the party is doing within, is just a family contest. The real championship will be in 2020. So far, I think, if I just take it that the atmosphere is serene, people have been civil in the way they've conducted themselves. I listened to the incumbent women organizer, Ajia Amama, and then Anabisu. They were all fierce and keen. I believe the other contestants for the position, but there wasn't any animosity, if what I heard is anything to go by. So we pray that it's getting to 12. By early evening, it will be over. Then the party will prepare for the 17th, and then, of course, the ultimate in exactly. And when that moment comes and we are on this program, we can also comment on those issues. So we wish the delegates well, and those who emerge victorious, we believe they will also add up to the effort for the party to contest the elections. So that's all that we can say on that.
Well, so just 2 quick messages. I'll be coming to take 2 minutes of optional comments from all 4 of you, but just 2 quick messages. No, we don't have to.
Wisdom could be a statement.
So you can use it too.
Yes, I'll use my
briefly. Wisdom Kobe Menson says Edem Agbana all the way, and Koblavi of Pokwasi Benghazi keeps sending me that message. So if I've read Wisdom's one, I guess I should just read his. And he says that from Koblavi of Pokwasi Benghazi says that Chairman Wuntumi has no power to stop John Mahama from campaigning in schools in Kumasi Metropolis, because Kumasi does not belong to him. He's not greater than John Mahama. He's neither the KMA boss nor the MP of Kumasi. He is nobody. He must be aware. More votes for Sami Jemfi as National Communications Director. He also says that the ongoing women organizer election at Kasua will be a great history in the books of our party NDC, because Mamie Fua Sechiado is going to emerge as the winner as the Deputy National Women Organizer. So I'm calling for massive support for her. She's number 5 on the ballot. Mamie Fua number 5. Yes. I think she was a party parliamentary candidate in Trobo. Yes, Trobo. Yes, she is. Okay. So our optional comment. We'll start with Mr. Wilson.
Well, is it time or I thought the this thing was adding us some more time.
They are already seated.
Yes. You can't do anything.
I think the optional. There are a lot of optional things to discuss, but let me just, since it's just 2 minutes, and today being my birthday, let me use that to.
And we will cede our time to you. Glorify yourself in your own makeup.
Let me just use this opportunity to plead and request from the presidency, that is, listen, to grant me a birthday wish of ensuring that the fuel price, something is done about it. Have you realized that a lot of people have parked their cars? A lot of people have parked their cars, and those who are struggling to move with their cars, they calculate the steps. I remember a friend was coming to visit me in the office, and I directed him, and he came, got to a stage, and then he stopped, and then called again and said, I've gotten to this stage. Is it closer? Am I closer or not?
Was he in traffic?
No. Then I said, oh, you are almost there. Then he came. When he came, he started like, he said, do you know why I called you? I said, no. Because I was gauging my petrol. And if it was still a way to go, I would have parked the car and then picked a trotro to you. Then I'll come back for my car to the house. That is the reality. And you know the worst part of it is that fuel has become so integral part of our economy that a touch on fuel affects everything. It affects absolutely everything. One, it affects the pricing of food because it will affect transportation. It affects the pricing of food. It affects virtually running of even services, rendering of services, and it affects everything. Isn't it the president who and the vice president, then candidates, whom they touted as a prophet, you know, and it has become so clear that he was a false prophet because everything he said was being touted as a prophet. He came and he realized that we've all realized that they are all lies. But there were those telling us that they can really fix this economy with particular reference to the fuel. So what is happening? How come we are having an escalated fuel prices every now and then? Last week when I was here, I mentioned that the prices have gone up. People did not even believe till the following day when Sam started calling me and said, it is true. We went and then we realized. Now the prices goes up without even notice. They don't even tell us anything. Just last week the price went up. I am just scared that between now and the next coming week, the price will go up again. The president and his vice and the economic management team, they should do something. If indeed they have this country at heart, they should do something.
Thank you. And once again, happy birthday to you. Thank you for spending the better part of your birthday with us. Alhaji.
Yes. I would, just want to take this opportunity to echo and also mention to people, and I think everybody's living under it right now, and that is this government, it's no longer about campaigning, it's about results. People are looking for real, measurable, tangible, quantifiable results. And the results that I'm talking about is the relief from the hardship, economic hardship, social hardship, you name it. The quantum, the amount of borrowing, 50 billion so far. And what have we gotten in return? What have we seen in return? The misery index, our share index is going up and up and up and up. Brother Wilson just talked about the what is it called? The fuel increases. The fuel increases from 14 cities. Now it's up to 25 cities. Totally unacceptable. These are the same people that went around saying that the John Mahama government was wicked, was insensitive to the plight of the Ghanaian. What are they now saying to the market woman who has to take her stuff to the market? What are they saying to the farmer taking his produce from the farm gate to the market? What are they saying to the woman who has to go take her children to the hospital, take your children to school, how the impact of all of this, okay? It just does not make sense. And Dr. Baumia, it is not about talking anymore. It's about results. You've had 22 months. Show us where is that economic miracle? Where is that economic magic that you promised? We haven't seen anything. People are tired. People are tired. For God's sake, give us the relief. That's all we're asking for. But we know, deep down in me, I know that you cannot deliver. So inshallah, your time is up. We're taking you out.
Prof.
Well, so long as we maintain this importation system,
Yes.
I don't think we'll get anywhere. And it's perhaps come to a point where government must put this petroleum pricing issue as a national agenda for discussion. Simple as that. Do you know that the banks are writing to their various customers to provide their tax identification number?
10, I got it.
When Ken Oforiatta presented the budget, what was the refrain? Lawmaker, you were there. This tax, yeah, Mutu. This tax, yeah, Mutu.
Yeah.
So is it not what Tekpe introduced? That is coming back. Now you have telecommunications. So I make my test or my WhatsApp, and then I buy 2 CDs and load it to my network. Then you take something off. When systems get to that point, then you see desperation. Because when you tax the hell out of people, and I have my salary in my bank, what else? If it were not a banking system, you just sign off in the olden times when you just sign your pay from the accounts office and you just took everything. So if you get to the point where you want to tax everything, that's what's happening. You're talking about the US, $1, you feel you get 1 gallon. Do you know a liter of fuel? A liter of fuel is just this one, and this is 500 ml, 500. This is a liter.
Yes.
What can this do?
That's right.
And so those managing the economy, if you sell 1 liter of fuel, be it a motorcycle for $1, then it tells you
It's actually even more than
than $1. It tells you what the economy is, and that's why I said, given this input cost, can you sell a pen for 50 pesos? That is where the challenge is. Now, on the matter of what is it? The food, obviously. I was saying on this program a couple of weeks ago that look at the cost of doing everything in this country. The most expensive. We say railway line, we have a ministry for railway. And what are we doing? Just putting stones, clearing mud on the old 40, 50-year-old rail track, and then piling stones around. And where is the rail getting to? From Accra to Nsawam. Is it passenger? So the cost of doing any business or any economic activity is so high. You understand? The other day, the GRA Chief Director General was saying that over the last 5 years, the GRA had lost about 4.5 billion. That's what they are estimating. But you are interested in collecting tax. And those of us in the formal sector where you see you are giving a check, they take 20% off. MPs, you lose your 20% of withholding tax. But what of the informal sector? So the way we are running our system, no wonder this is going to happen. Do you think fuel prices will come below 5 cedis?
No.
It will not. Is it an increase in the crude oil price at the world market? Or it is $1? Christmas is coming. Traders are already bringing their containers. And government is more interested in collecting revenue from Tema Harbor. So long as this push-pull factor is there, the dollar, which is the most important variable in the formula, obviously prices will go up. And as you said, we will avoid traffic. And Okada is not cheap. So
Okada is so expensive.
Exactly.
going up on Monday.
But seriously,
The prices are going up.
seriously, where things are getting to, we need to really impress on government that the whole pricing is very, very important, and we have to discuss it because it's going to offset everything. If you haul in more revenue, people will find a way of surviving. For me, that's a crucial issue, and we'll leave it for this weekend.
Special petroleum levy.
Exactly.
Bring it down.
Yeah.
No.
I have often said that. See, a lie is like a pregnancy.
It will come out.
The older it grows, the more exposed it becomes. So you can lie today and think you will hide the truth. And that is what this MPP party did. They rode on the back of lies to power. Copious lies, blatant falsehood. That they were going to, in 18 months, and this is what President Nana Akufo-Addo, and if you want the situation, he said this at the last rally of the MPP at the Jubilee Park in Tamale, at the regional rally of the MPP, that they need not more than 18 months to transform this country. Yeah. And that this country, together with what is running mate and the Vice President, Dr. Baumia, said, that they will transform this country flowing of milk and honey. Give them 18 months. And what did they say? Fuel. They even got a group formed called Drivers for Change. Who said that? They said, how much money do they have in their pocket? They said, they have little money in their pocket. Because fuel prices under President Mahama were very high. They had even reduced President Mahama to be the depot keeper. He was selling fuel. The well manager there, if you go there, you see President Mahama filling fuel. And that he was a wicked man who was selling it for 14 cedis a gallon. And that when they are giving power, fuel will sell for less, far less than 14 Ghana cedis at that time per gallon. My brother, today, less than 2 years in government, how much is a gallon of petrol? We are getting to 26, 25 Ghana cedis plus. So, my brother, if 14 cedis is criminal, what would you say about 25 cedis? You can see the falsehood perpetrated by this government. And you can see that far from even attempting to deliver, the future looks very bleak. Because when you are talking about fuel, every other thing goes up. The cost of living is run amok. And I've always said that anytime they churn out figures, especially Dr. Baumia, I've said that when he greets you good morning, look at the position of the sun before you respond. Even the weather, they can even lie against the weather, which is obvious. Okay? Today, look at the cost of living Ghanaians have to go through. Because once you touch fuel, as all the panels have said, everything goes up. Everything, transportation. Yesterday, when I was coming out from Ofanko on the way to this, there were big fights between commuters and tractor drivers. But some of them have said they can no longer hold on. They said Monday that they are going to increase it to 20%. But some of them say they can no longer even wait. So some of them were instantaneously trying to increase first. If you go, food that has to be hauled from the hinterland to Ghana, a bag of maize. Under President Mahama, a bag of maize was about 70 Ghana cedis. Today it's over 200. Some in some areas. If you come to Accra, you go and ask for a bag of maize. Now how much is a bag of? Go to the market. You will hear. Within just this short period of time. No wonder. Today, keke, which is the staple food for many of us in Accra here, koshoko has caught keke. Keke has caught koshoko. It's shrinking in size. My brother. So you can see the kind of this that they have done. Okay? My brother, I want to crave your indulgence. So after the issues of the economy, I've said that a man who has died in the market, you don't need to announce his demise. The MPP, what they have done to Ghanaians about the hardship and area, it's a story Ghanaians cry every day. So I don't need to sit here and say it. Ghanaians live it, and everybody knows that they have been condemned, and Ghanaians are just waiting for December 2020. But the telecoms is a very important fundamental human right for Ghanaians. The right of freedom of speech, to talk, that to even say things about how things are running in your community, in your region, in your town, in your country. It's President Nana Akufo-Addo who told us at his inaugural, at his induction at the Independence Square, that we should be citizens, even though it was a stolen speech from, a plagiarized speech from the United States, former President Bush and Clinton. That we should not be citizens, we should be citizens and not spectators. Okay? So citizens means we must be active in discussing and debating issues of our country. How are the people going to debate and discuss things on radio, on television and others when tariff hikes are going to make it impossible for them to speak. Because today the phone has become, it's no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. Today. That is why even if you are in town, you used to communicate with your parents back at home or whoever, relatives. It become a necessary tool. Today, by the actions of government, November 1st this year, tariffs are going to shoot up. So your ability to buy units and make calls will be further curtailed. And I've heard people mistakenly heaping the blame on the telcos. No, it is not. That's why I'm craving your indulgence to give a proper explanation. The buck stops with His Excellency President Nana Akufo-Addo. It is President Akufo-Addo's Bawumia government that has hiked the telco tariffs. It is not the telcos. And I'm going to explain. That's why I say I'm pleading that you should give me some more time, because we in the minority have issued a statement.
Okay.
And as spokesperson for the minority on communications, I read it out to the media. And I want to say without any iota of hesitation that the buck stops squarely at President Nana Akufo-Addo through his finance minister. Why am I saying so? In the announcement of the telecos, and permit me to quote, because I want to quote it so that these are not my words. The telecos, in giving the reasons for the upward adjustment of their tariffs, say that, quote, it is to give effect to the conversion of the National Health Insurance Levy and the Ghana Education Trust Fund into from VAT into levies that are not subject to the input-output mechanism, and delinking them from VAT by removing the option of input tax deductibility, unquote. What this means is that previously, the 2.5% National Health Insurance Levy and 2.5% GET Fund were VAT. And let me just give you an example. The VAT calculation is what we call value added. It is not based on the total sum. So, for instance, if a woman goes to buy, a watch seller goes to buy beans and rice, and the total cost is 10 cedis, and she puts all that together and goes to sell the watch for 15 cedis, the VAT that you calculate will be for that she bought it at 10, sold it at 15. So the value added is 5. I think you understand it. The value added is 5. So you are going to take 2.5% of 5 cedis as your VAT. What the government did with these telcos is that in transforming them to straightforward levies. Now it's just like the example that I gave. Instead of calculating your VAT on only the 5 cedis, this time you are going to calculate the VAT on the entire 15 cedis. I think you understand the principle. So the incidence of the tax that is there now is bigger than what it was before. And so, because secondly, those who operated VAT used to get this input, you go for what we call input VAT from government, so you can reclaim that one back. Now the government has withdrawn that option, so you can no longer claim that money from the government. You have to find a way of passing the cost. Where is the cost going?
To the customer.
So it has to be passed by the telecos directly to the customer. So it is not the telecos who made that policy. Telecos don't make policy. They don't initiate policy. They don't impose tax. It's government. So it's the government through the finance minister who initiated a change in the character of the VAT, of the 2.5% health insurance and the GET Fund. And that is principally what has brought about this offloading of the cost. So let nobody blame the telecos. The blame should directly rest squarely on the government. And that is why we in the minority want the good people of this country to understand that even attempts to curtail our freedom of speech is directly the action of government. Already, go and look at the beverages. They have already increased the distance. I don't drink beer. But those of you who drink beer, I'm sure you can testify. Those who drink Guinness, it has gone up.
Are you looking at
my face just happened to be having
Thank you very much, Honorable.
Exactly. But today is your day, so I thought maybe you pop small. Even those of us who don't drink beer and we take malt. The price of malt has gone up.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Alvaro, all those kinds of they have all gone up.
Okay, Honorable, thank you.
So
very
it's the
much.
same thing they are doing. So Ghanaians should know where to appropriately lay the blame. It's directly at the doorstep of President Nana Akufo-Addo and his government. And today, Ghana has become one of the most extortionate taxation countries in the world.
Well, thank you.
And if you look at it, I'm just landing.
Okay.
If you look at it, go and read the manifesto of the NPP, an agenda for change, from taxation to production.
Yeah,
That is what they said.
that's right.
And when the finance minister came to Parliament, we tried to interrogate him on this matter. You indicated that you were going to do less and less of taxation. On the contrary, the evidence is that you are now loading more and more taxes onto the already overburdened, overtaxed people of this country. Wherein lies your promise to Ghanaians in your manifesto of 2016 that we are going to move away from taxation to production? Not an iota. On the contrary, production is even slumping, and many people are being thrown out of work because their enterprises are going under because they cannot face the extortionate taxation this government is operating.
Yeah.
It's a government of empty promise that cannot live
Just
up.
a second. Tomorrow, and I'm craving your indulgence to do this, just to appreciate someone who is also celebrating her birthday tomorrow, Madame Rosie Yankson.
Okay.
I want to wish her a happy birthday in advance, and she's actually my mom.
Okay. Oh, how happy.
Yeah.
Oh, so your birthday comes immediately after?
My birthday comes a day before my
before
mom.
your-
Wow.
okay.
I'm still wondering how they did it.
They calculated.
I think so. So I wish mom a very happy birthday tomorrow.
But
in
permit me
advance.
to just also salute him for using his birthday to do a great job for the good people of this country.
Thank you.
Sometimes you just go and sit down, feast, and but
That's
to come and imbue your people with knowledge is one of the greatest legacies you can leave.
That's right.
And we're very grateful to you.
Thank you very much.
President to reduce the
To reduce the price. Thank you very much.
But there's a message for
I don't know
you.
whether he listens or you hear.
Maybe you
There's a message for you. Senator, please wish Mr. Emmanuel Wilson a happy birthday for us. He has a lot of admirers and we always enjoy hearing his submissions.
Okay.
Tell Honorable ABF Husseini and the leadership of the of our party to convince Mr. Wilson to join the NDC. And that's coming from Agnes. She's an NDC women organizer. And also a happy birthday to Abdul Rahman, one of our followers on Facebook. And Kavlon Muller also says hi to Honorable ABA Husseini. And so a big thank you to those of you watch us on Facebook. You sent in your messages. A big thank you to you. You heard Professor Ninoy Dowona, who is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana. Alhaji ABA Husseini is member of parliament for Sanyarugo constituency. Alhaji Haruna Rashid Ibrahim is executive director of Development Challenge. And the man who is celebrating his birthday today, Mr. Emmanuel Wilson, Director of Communications of the People's National Convention. A big thank you for passing through, and so always insightful having the caliber of panelists we bring on the show every weekend. And don't forget to download the Franco Trading app and enjoy that 30% discount from them when you buy any product using the app. And also a big thank you to Kulun Ghana Limited. They are producers of Mr. Q. They are one of our sponsors. And then to Titi Brothers. And a big thank you to our partner stations across the country who streamed us live. We're also live on GFM Radio in London and on Radio Gold 905.com. My name is Senna Nombo.